Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today we have Acasha with us.
Hello.
Tell me, is there room for me to cry? Is the devil all inside my mind? I don't want to die like this. I want to live my life.
Hi, Acasha. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Where'd you come in from?
I am from Austin, Texas right now.
Fun. I kind of heard you guys talking a little bit about stuff out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can start wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah. So I have a long story.
Okay.
But I'll kind of sum it up. I met my husband, I guess you could say, back when I was 17 in high school. So kind of a naive person back then. And I was very involved. I had a lot of friends. I was very popular. And he just kind of swooped in and was one of those charming people. And I kind of ended my 2-year relationship I was in at the time and started dating him. And that was probably my biggest regret looking back on that, is kind of getting involved in this relationship that ended up lasting over 20 years. And I'm now, I want to say free, if you will. But it was a really long process. I've gone through a lot over those 20, and now it's 26 years almost that I've been dealing with this situation.
What about him kind of sucked you in the beginning, do you think?
I think he's one of those charming people, and you can't really articulate why or how you fall for that type of a person. But it's just they knew every single thing that you would need, and they would meet every need that you had. And it was really hard to really understand that as a 17-year-old.
Sure.
You don't even understand it. But it was just this kind of sweep you off your feet moment. And
Right.
Expensive gifts and things. And when you're 17, it's hard to see that.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
When you're 17. Yeah.
Where do you get the money for this? Or,
Right.
and then looking back, obviously, he was probably stealing the money and things. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess let's go down that road then.
Yeah. So we were together back and forth. He was always a serial cheater, right? Like always had someone else. And I just kind of accepted it to a point. And I had very low self-esteem after being with him for a little while. It was like he isolated me. I didn't have any friends. I just kind of thought that was normal. And being young, you didn't really know. So that went on, and back and forth. I moved to college. He followed me. I ended up leaving college and going back home and enrolling in a local college. But he actually had a child while we were in high school, and he kind of made it seem like she was crazy. And I believed it. It was like, oh gosh, yeah, she's crazy. She's just mad because you don't want to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
I was only getting half the story. And then we ended up moving into an apartment together, and he was kind of always gone, and I was the one paying all the bills and taking care of everything. And I left the apartment because I was done. I could see he was emotionally abusing me, and I was not in a good place. So I decided to move home. So I just kind of left one day when he went to work, and my parents helped me. And when I got home, he was always in trouble too, always getting arrested and having to get bailed out for different things. And I didn't really know what was going on. But one day he called me from jail. I just left, and I was trying to be done with him. And I called his family to see if they could help. And his brother said, yeah, we're here with the kids. And I just froze, like, kids? And
with an S?
Yeah. And apparently he had another daughter with the woman while we were supposedly living together. So that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, okay. And, I tried to leave, and he sweet talked me back and said everything was going to be different, and it was a misunderstanding. And, I let it go again. After a couple of weeks, he wore me back down, and I ended up going back and being in a relationship, if you will, for him for several more years. And things got a little better at that point. There was so much drama in high school and early college, and then things kind of settled down. I mean, he seemed like he had dealt with these things that were going on and his troubles. And we got a little rental house and I finished college and we got engaged and, we ended up getting married. So I felt like, okay, things are going better now.
Was he working or was he going to college too?
He never went to college, never went to school. Okay. And that's probably of note as we get further in the story. He worked for his brother's company doing audiovisual, so very tech savvy, very able to do a lot of technical things with computers or phones or wiring systems. So that's where he worked, and he worked for his brother's company for quite some time. So we just kind of lived a pseudo life for a little bit, and I thought everything was going to be okay from that point.
Did you think he was still cheating? And
I wanted to believe he wasn't, but there are always things I would find and I'd be like, that's weird. Oh, that doesn't make sense. I think now, knowing what I know, he was always cheating. But I kind of wanted to believe that the fairy tale was real, that you meet someone in high school, you go through this, you grow, you learn, you get married, and that's life. Right. And my parents were married, my grandparents were married. I believed in that. And so I think that was probably my greatest positive asset and weakness because, it's hard to admit that you made
it makes you want to fight it out and really stick by your guy and fight for what you have. Yeah.
Yeah. And not knowing everything, I believed in that. I'm a very loyal person. I'm very committed. And I think I thought, okay, this is what it is. This is what life is. So, it was one of those hindsight is 2020. I should have done things differently, but I didn't. So it was probably, we got married in about 2007. Okay. And then I had...
How old are you guys at this point?
When we got married?
Yeah.
I was probably 25.
Okay.
25.
So you're a few years in now.
Yeah. I'm in, like I said, on the outside at this point, things seemed okay. I now look back and I had no friends. I had, it was just my family and his family. I couldn't really go anywhere. He would go and play golf or do things. And I was kind of just working a lot. I was a nanny at the time, so I'd work weird hours and, I went to school to be an early childhood teacher. So I love children and I'd, teach preschool and watch children. And that was all I really wanted to do was have my own kids and hang out with kids. That was always my thing. So, it was one of those, everything felt really normal from the outside. And
was your family, were they noticing anything, or was it kind of like the facade when everyone was around? Did he put on a show? And
yeah, he was very good at putting on the facade. I will say my sister, he hates my sister and has always hated my sister, but my sister can see through things. She
calls him out of shit.
Very much so. She is very attuned. And so early on, my sister did not like him. And there was always a big rift between them. And I wish I would have listened to her a little bit more, but she was my younger sister. So,
You're like, what do you know? Yeah, that's just what we do.
I'm fine. Yeah. So that was part of it. And but everyone else, I think he kind of had them fooled to a little bit. I think they knew he was a little bit phony, but up until when we got married, we kind of believed it was going to be fine. We had a beautiful wedding. Everyone was there. Mm-hmm. It just seemed great on the outside. And I got really good over the years at compartmentalizing things and hiding things. And, again, things I wish I would have not done. But I got really good at putting on a facade that everything's fine.
Well, yeah. And at that time, you're already brainwashed so much. And, we don't know.
Yeah.
At the time, it's really easy to look back and say, I wish I would have.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're in it.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. And I think I wanted it to be great so badly that I couldn't see it any other way. Yeah. I was like, I can make it perfect. I can fix it. I can do it. I can make it better. And that was what I took on as my job as being
Sure.
a significant other or whatever. So that was what I believed.
So is there's 2 kids that he has?
2 kids that he has from a previous relationship,
Okay.
and they know nothing of him.
Okay,
They do
so
not know.
you guys didn't have the
Nope.
2. Wow,
He
okay.
basically left, and the mom left. So the mom, and now I know she ran and didn't want anything to do. And after I've done some digging, there was, restraining orders and family violence, but at a young age, you don't
wouldn't
think to
have
go
even thought of
looking, and it was kind of before,
Right.
all of that. So there was that. So there's these 2 children out there that he just said their lives will be better and we'll just move on and start over. And in my mind, I kind of knew that wasn't right, but it's not my children.
Yeah.
Who am I to say?
Right.
So I just kind of let that go. But I would have loved to invite them in.
Sure.
I would have loved, I know that I believe there's a lot of hate from her and the kids towards me. And I totally understand that looking back. Like, looking at it, it probably seemed like I was like, oh, come here and start a new life with me and leave your children. But
God knows what he was saying on the other end too. Yeah.
So, I felt bad for that, but I didn't really know what I could do at that point. So, so we ended up getting married. Everything was fine. I got pregnant soon after with our first daughter. It was kind of a rough pregnancy. I think it was about 16 weeks in, and they said you have to be on bed rest. And so I was a little worried because, that would stress our finances. And he had always been very concerned about money. And I kind of felt like, oh, crap, this is going to be even worse. But on the outside, he seemed supportive. And so I went on bed rest and kind of made it through the pregnancy until the very end. And then they were worried like she wasn't growing and, she might have Down syndrome and all of this. So I was on edge for a lot of months. And then it was probably like early February. She's supposed to be born in March and early February. So we went in and they told us, okay, we're going to induce you because she's just not growing right. So we ended up going in and having her. And it was a beautiful experience. And it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, becoming a mom. Like, that's all I ever wanted. But it was kind of bittersweet, I think. He didn't really want my family around and everyone had to wait outside. And so, I wish I would have had a little bit more support. But she came out and she was beautiful. And I think my kids are the one thing I will get upset about. There's a lot of hard things about them now. But being a mom was like the thing I wanted to be the most. So that was great. One of the best things that's
Was he supportive during it since he wanted to be in there by himself?
With my first daughter, he was very supportive. He was excited, decorated the nursery. It was a very positive experience. And I stayed home with her for the first year, which was great. We just kind of got to be 2 peas in a pod every moment together. It was really, really great. I spent a lot of time at my family's farm, and she grew up with horses and cows and just chickens. And it was such a great experience. So it was really good. And everything was great. And then about a year, I started back to work because, we needed the money, and I started teaching again. And it was right around that time that things started to get a little weird again in terms of like, he was gone more. He was playing golf. Almost every single day, weekends, 2 rounds, on Saturday and Sunday. And he just started to kind of disappear. And at that time, he started drinking a little bit more. He just kind of started leaving. And I was slightly terrified because now I have a young child, and I'm a preschool teacher making no money. Absolutely no way to support myself, really. So I was a little bit stuck, I felt like. And again, I was very isolated. I didn't have a lot of friends. Going back to work helped. I met some really nice women who were really supportive. But it was about a year and a half. It just started to get worse and worse, and he was gone a lot. And I basically raised her by myself a lot of the time. Financially, he was helping. I thought he was paying the mortgage, and I thought things were being taken care
Oh,
of.
no.
But behind the scenes, there was a lot of things that weren't happening. So then he just kind of started to pull back, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not sure what's happening. But then it was about 3 years later, I wanted another child. I wanted her to have a sister or brother. I didn't know at that point, but so I ended up finding out I was pregnant early 2011, and I felt like maybe that would help him again, kind of find his purpose and come together. And it was the exact opposite, and that was the beginning of the end. When I told him I was pregnant with our second daughter, he kind of lost it at that point, and he was extremely angry. He didn't want to have another child. He absolutely stopped coming home at all. It got really bad. I mean, I think I cried every single day of that pregnancy, like hard sob cry. I'm trying to go to work and do what I needed to do, but I was so stressed out, and
Sure.
every day it was like, we're going to get divorced. So then I kind of battled through that a little bit. I kind of made it my own plan. I got insurance through my work, and I started kind of trying to figure out, okay, if I have to leave, this will be what I do. So I kind of started thinking that way. And at that time, then I started finding out about the mistresses. So it was one after the other, and just kind of coming out of the woodwork. So I kind of just accepted that.
How did you find out?
It was a variety of things. He would text me like weird messages in the middle of the night when he was gone. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This and that.
Like wrong person?
Yeah, wrong person texts. And then I started to get messages from other people, and it just started coming out that there were other women, lots of other women. So.
And now you're aware, like there's now you're looking for it.
Yeah, and now I know, right? And it was a lot of people he would meet at different places, whether it was like on the golf course or, the bar, concerts, because he was pretty much living like he was single with his single friends at that point. So, and he told me if we have our second daughter, that if I ever leave him, he's taking custody of the kids. And before I had her, I just thought, this is crazy, like whatever, I just kind of brushed it off and said, whatever. But that stuck in my mind for a very long time, that he was going to do that.
Of course it would, right? Oh my goodness.
So yeah, then I had things got really bad, and around that same time, he started having really weird health concerns, and so he had a history of MS, even though it's not hereditary. He really thought he had an MS because of what was happening, and he ended up going to get tested it was probably 2014 by that time. And he ended up getting an MRI, and it's kind of a tangle of blood vessels in your brain. And it's called an AVM, arterial venous malformation. So he didn't have MS, but he had this other thing. And so that was a whole new thing we had to contend with. And to this point, he was kind of living with this other girl. And I was just at the house, and we'd have, once in a while, he'd come home and see the kids and whatever. We were just kind of living separately. And so we kind of dealt with that. And then after he got this diagnosis, we were in the hospital getting the diagnosis done. And I'm sitting in there, and he's asleep under anesthesia in the bed next to me. And this woman walks in. It's another one of his mistresses. And I said, she's like, who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm his wife. And she was like, ghost-faced and walked out. But that was it was another one. It wasn't even the one he was living with. So,
oh gosh,
it kind of started to spiral. So I just accepted it. I think that was where I was at the time. I had 2 young kids. I didn't have a way out. And again, I think I thought I could fix it. Like, if I was just perfect, I'm a great mom, I keep the house perfect, I can deal with it. And so that was part of that. And soon after that, he kind of came back. I think he must have broken it off with his longtime girl. He came back. We got the diagnosis. He ended up going to the hospital in Baltimore and getting this procedure done on his brain, where they inject onyx and coils into the brain to stop the bleeding. So now he has this big mass in his brain with onyx and coils, at which that procedure caused him to start having really bad seizures. So he started down this kind of precarious medical path, and then they put him on a lot of medications to control the seizures, which some of the side effects of the medication were like rage and uncontrollable behavior. So that kind of started the beginning of the physical violence, and that was when that kind of really took a turn. So that was 2014 when he had that procedure, and then he had one more right after that in November. And again, then I found out he was with another woman from my sister-in-law saw him. And so it was just kind of a spiral. And at that point, then my family all was starting to figure it out. Because up until this point, I was kind of hiding it. Like, oh, he's on a work trip and he's doing this and he's doing that. And
all the excuses for him.
I was just making it. And I think they knew. But then it got bad, and he started to get scary, and that was when I was starting to get really, really scared and worried when he would come home, because he would either be drinking or he would just be so unpredictable.
He was drinking on all those meds.
Oh yeah. And so I think he was like self-medicating from, I have this brain condition. So then it spiraled, and it was actually December 19th of 2014. He came home and he had this brand new massive tattoo, and I'm just sitting in the bed. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And I think he had probably been drinking, but he told me I had to get out of the house the next morning. And I would have an hour or two while he took our youngest daughter to her Christmas play, and I needed to be out of the house. And I just started sobbing, like, what are you talking about? Like, he just there was no room for any sort of discussion. So the next morning he woke up, took the girls, went to her play, and I just started stuffing anything I could in black trash bags and put them all in my car and left. I got whatever I could out, and I left, and I went to my parents. So they were probably like 15 or 20 minutes away. And so I was like devastated. I'd never been away from my kids before. I was starting to be terrified of him because he just was unpredictable. And I think I thought, let's just let him cool off. I'll do this. I'll go here. It'll be okay.
Oh, he wanted to keep the girls?
He kept the girls. He kept the house. He kept everything. Because now he's on disability. He can't work anymore. He's getting disability from the state. And he's getting some money here and there. He's not working anymore. So he can be this fantastic dad, where at this time, I'm a photographer. So I've started trying to build my own thing, which he didn't like either. Trying to come up with some money for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm starting this photography business. I'm doing really well. I have a lot of clients. I'm loving it. And he also didn't like that. So I think
he doesn't want you to have any independence whatsoever.
Yeah. And he hated like I would have to every cent. So that was another form of kind of the control that after my kids were born, I didn't have any access to our bank accounts. I didn't have any credit cards. I didn't have any money. I had to ask him for everything. I wasn't on any of the houses. I was on my car with him. That was the only thing I was on. I had no credit. I had nothing. I couldn't even look at our bank accounts. And now going back, I know he didn't want me to see the bank accounts because he was spending thousands of dollars on vacations to Mexico with his mistresses and brand new cars. And yeah, it was just, insane. He got 2 DUIs during that time. He paid for those. It was so spiraling,
Do you remember back then how you, what were you thinking? Like when he would say, no, you can't go in the bank account. You can't do this. You can't, what was going through your head? Like, how were you just so beat down that?
He wouldn't say it that way. He would say, we're a family. I'm taking care of us. You need to think about, don't be selfish. You don't need to spend money on a new shirt. That's selfish. And he would say, oh, I'm getting all these new clothes and all these new golf things. Well, I'm sponsored by Nike and they're giving me all these things, which I'm like,
oh, he's so full of shit.
No.
Yeah.
But it was such a slow progression over those years. Because by now I've been in this relationship for 14 years. I don't have any way out, which is why I liked the photography, because I could make my own money. And then I would take money and put it to the side. And
Good.
he would figure it out though. And then that's when he would get really upset. And, I embezzled $40,000 or whatever. No. So it was kind of always delicate, but that was how he isolated me so much, was I had no financial, nothing.
Yeah.
There was no way I could go anywhere. I mean, I could go to my family's house. But that was always, your daddy's going to bail you out and you're going to get your daddy to take care of you and, things like that. But that made me feel
just more brainwashing.
Yeah. Like, I can't go to my dad. I am running to my dad for everything. I have to do this by myself. Like, it just led into everything.
Yeah.
So it was never like you couldn't, but I mean, a couple of times I would. I mean, I knew things were happening. I could see it. I'm not dumb. I would see the Starbucks order with one of two and, somebody else's name on it, or the bag tag that would come back that said Nicole or Jennifer on it. And I'm like,
And you wouldn't say anything to him?
No. I never said anything. I just, my way of enduring it all was just to not ignore it, but fawn. I was basically that through
sure.
this whole ordeal. It's just been that. And that's, I think, why coming on something like this is just empowering to a point, because I've always been very, let's just let it go. Let's just let it go. Let's just let it go. Because fighting back just always seemed so terrifying.
Finding out you have some power you never knew you had.
Yeah, for sure now. So that kind of spiraled and went and did and all the things. And then we got to, he had all the DUIs, he had all this. It was about 2015. So I had moved out, and that's when things got really bad and it started to get really terrifying. He was terrifying. So he wanted a divorce. I think, because he wanted to move on with this other woman and whatever. And I was still at this point kind of fighting because I wanted to be in my children's life. And I knew he was never going to let that happen. And so I kind of went back and forth on that. But it was early 2015, probably spring. And I went back to get some of my stuff, and he told me I could come back and get some of the things, some of my photography stuff, and just a couple things I couldn't get out before. And so I walk up to the front door, and he opens it before I even get there. And before I can even say anything, he just started throwing everything out on the driveway. So everything's just showering down, everything's breaking, anything, I had a chair I used for photography, just shattered, and just everything was broken. And I'm like humiliated because I'm in the neighborhood, people are driving by. So I'm trying to get everything, and I'm just throwing it in my car. And I had the courage to go back up and ask him for my wedding dress, because I eventually thought maybe I could give it to the girls, or, I don't even know why I wanted it. And he said, he didn't even say anything. He just shut the door, and I could hear, because of where the basement was, I could hear him go down to the basement to get it. And then I heard the garage, and I hear spray paint going, and I can smell it through the door, and I hear it. And about 5 minutes later, he throws the pink garment bag at me, and I can just smell it. It's just spray paint. Everything smells like spray paint. And so I'm just like mortified, and I just throw it in the back of the car and I drive away, and I'm just crying like, oh my God, what is happening? And I couldn't even open it at that time. I didn't open that bag for probably until 2019 when I kind of got the courage. I had my mom open it actually, and she sent me pictures, and it's just my wedding dress covered in black spray paint. So it was one of those like, okay, this is not cool. So I got what I could. Everything was broken and destroyed at that point, and went back home. And then a couple weeks later, he had asked me to come and work out the details of the divorce. And so I said, okay. And so I went back to the house that we had lived in together, and I could tell walking up, he was angry. And so I just kind of said, okay, and as soon as I walk up, he slams the door, all the pictures rattle, and he says, give me your phone. And I said, okay. And now I know he had tracking on my phone. He knew everything I spent money on, every app, everything I've ever had, every photo I've taken, everything, right? So he had complete access to my phone through all of this. And, he would do things like shut off my phone or call, and I'd think it was my dad, and it was him. So I'd answer, and it was him, and it says dad on there. So those are the types of things that he started to do. And I was terrified. But I hand him my phone this day, and he starts opening it and scrolling through my pictures. And I had lost some weight at that point, so I was taking some progress pictures, and he was furious. And so at that point, he just starts screaming at me. And we're in a house that has windows. I mean, it's in a community, so there's someone right next to us. And he tells me that I need to strip naked. I need to stand in the front of the living room in front of the windows, and I need to take off all my clothes and strip naked. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, okay. Like, and I don't even know what to do. So I get up in the front of the living room, and I'm taking my clothes off, and I'm just sobbing. Like, I'm so embarrassed. And it just like made me feel so small. You know, it was one of those like,
Yes.
this man who had once promised to love me, absolutely just humiliating me. So, and he's sitting there, oh, how sexy are you now? How beautiful are you now? Like, you're fucking ugly, and you know, all this stuff. And so I'm naked and standing there in front of the living room. And after he had like humiliated me enough, then he grabbed my arm and he said, come with me. And he pulls me, I'm naked, no, nothing, I have nothing. And he opens the door to the basement, and he brings me downstairs. And our basement wasn't finished, so there was like carpet on the stairs. But when you get downstairs, it's just like concrete floor and nothing, and you know, empty bags of baby clothes and random stuff. And so he put me in the basement, and I'm naked, and he's like screaming at me, and I don't even remember everything that happened. But he shoves me down, and I'm like on this bag of trash, baby clothes, and I'm just sitting there, and he leaves. And I'm sitting in the basement going, oh my God, he's going to fucking kill me, and I'm going to die, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't even know how long it was. I mean, it was at least a couple hours. And he came, and I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get out? Okay, I'm going to find these baby clothes, and I'm naked, and even if I get out, I have to climb a fence. You know, there's a 6-foot fence in our backyard because there's a window well. I have to climb a fence naked, and then I have to run across the street. And what am I going to do? Go to my old neighbor's house saying, I need out. And what if he finds me? And so I'm sitting there, and I debate. I finally get the courage up to like, okay, I'm going to run. I'm going to get out. And I hear the door open again. And I hear, you know, it's a creak, like a scary creak, but it was just a creak of the basement. I hear him, and he's coming down the stairs, and he comes down, and just, I don't remember everything he said to me, but he's just screaming at me, and he's shaking me, and he's yelling at me. And I'm like now terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a basement. He's going to kill me. No one's going to find me. And so I kind of like go somewhere else in my brain, and he can see I'm scared, and he leaves again. He goes back upstairs, and so I'm stuck in the basement still. And then a couple hours again, I'm like thinking, okay, I'm not going to leave. Now I'm terrified. He is going to find me. So I'm just sitting there on the clothes, and I just kind of get a baby blanket and try to cover myself up. So a little bit later, he comes back down and gets me and says, you know, now you know not to do that. And we're going to work up what we're going to do for the divorce. And kind of after that, he drew up the divorce plans, and I'm literally terrified now. Like, okay, you just locked me in a basement naked. Like, what else are you capable of? So he drafts up the divorce, and he gets the kids. I can see them every other weekend, and one day every other week during the week. He gets the house, all the money, everything in the house. The only thing I can take away is my car, and I have to finish paying it, and then I will pay him child support every month. And so I do it. I agree. I sign it. We go to court, and I sit next to him. He says, you're going to sit next to me. So we sit on the same side in front of the judge. We had to go to mediation and everything. And I'm so terrified of what he's capable of that I just agree. And I also kind of have the strategy of keep him close, keep him happy. I can deal with this. I can manage it. I've been doing it for this long. I can do it. And so I agree. I start paying him child support cash every month. He has the house, the kids. I mean, he probably took at least $200,000 worth of equity, and he has the kids. And soon after, I start panicking, and I try to call a lawyer, and my parents tried to help me, and I'm just like, no, it's fine. I'll take care of it. You know, don't get involved. When I didn't want them to get involved and get hurt. And I was scared of what he would do to my family if they helped me. And so we kind of just plugged along. I mean, he had a lot of, his longtime mistress, I think, was mostly living there and around my kids, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with women around my kids, as long as he's not hurting them, right? And
Was he ever physical with the kids or just you?
not to my knowledge, not that when I was around ever. He was like a doting dad with the girls, and that was always in the back of my mind. He's a great dad. He's just, I'm the problem, was always my thought. So I agree. And then we kind of go on a little bit longer, and then things get worse and get worse. And so it was probably
After the divorce?
After the divorce. So we're going through divorce. So that was May when we file. So the summer of 2015 was so terrible. It was terrible. It was one of the more difficult times. So a couple weeks after I agreed to that in the basement incident, I'm staying with my parents. We live kind of out on a dirt road, kind of far away from everybody. But he's about 15, 20 minutes away. So I always sleep with my window open over the summer because it's Colorado and you can, but I also want to hear when he's coming because he would just show up all the time. And even if it was my time with the kids, he'd show up and pick them up in the middle of the night, or he'd show up and take them from, if it was my time and it was on Easter, he'd just take the kids and I would just do it because I'm
This guy just thought he could do whatever the hell he wanted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so I didn't fight it. I let it go. I did whatever. But that night I slept with my window open and it was probably about 1:00 in the morning. And I just wake up and I have a weird feeling and I look up and he's standing over my bed and I'm like, okay, what the fuck? Am I alive? Am I awake? Am I asleep? And he tells me, get up, you're coming with me. Don't make a sound. And I'm like, okay, like what the hell? Like, I don't know what's happening. And I get up, I put some shoes on and I start walking and I walk down the stairs and then I'm like right past my parents' bedroom door and I wish I would have screamed, but I knew if I would have screamed, my dad would have come out and there would have been an incident and who knows, somebody would have been hurt or killed. I didn't know. Yeah. And I'm like, just take care of it, Acasha, just deal with it. So I just walk out with him and he's walking and I keep thinking, why didn't I hear his truck? Why didn't I hear his truck? Well, he had parked his truck far enough away that he didn't drive into the driveway. So he's kind of right outside the property line. And so we're walking and I remember the moon was so bright and walking on the gravel driveway and we get to his truck and he says, get in. And so he opens the door and I get in the truck and he gets in and he didn't start the truck. And he looked at me and he said, put your hand on the fucking console. And I said, what? And he opened up this knife he had. He had a big, long pocket knife. It was probably about like 4 inches long. And he's holding this knife and he said, put your hand on the fucking console. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I start crying. I'm like, no, please, God, don't hurt me. Like, just don't hurt me. I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. And I start getting upset. And he said, put your hand on the fucking console and just starts screaming at me. And I physically, I couldn't do it. Like my body just kept pulling my hand back. And it went on for several minutes, probably 10 or 15 minutes. And he's screaming at me and I can't get my hand to stay on the console. And I'm just like, finally I put my hand down and I look out the window and I'm like, okay, he's going to stab me. And I just pretend I'm somewhere else, and I'm like sobbing at this point. And I could hear him shut it and say, see how scared you feel? That's how scared your fucking kids feel. See how scared you're making your kids? And I just said, I don't ever want to make the kids sad. I'm sorry. I just start going in my placate and I just let it go. And so I'm absolutely terrified. I'm like shaking. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And then he drives off and he takes me to his house. And at that point, he started to kind of have this cycle of he would scare you, he would abuse you, and then he would force you to have sex. And at that time, I didn't really consider it rape. And I don't even know if I've ever really said that. But I think now when I look back, if someone locks you in a basement or someone holds a knife to you and then afterwards says that you're going to have sex with them, you don't say no. There's just no saying no. So, and if I would have made him mad by saying no, it would have just spiraled.
You were surviving.
Yeah. So that's when that kind of started to come come into play. And at that point, he kept me at his house for a little bit. It was probably the next day before he would take me back. Because again, I had nothing with me, no way to communicate. So he took me back, and we just I was just existing. I was such a shell at that point, and I just was trying to see my kids at any given point I could see them. And they were, I think, mostly unaware up until this point, but it just kept getting worse and worse. And so it was probably...
Where are the kids when he does this stuff? With his other...
His mom would take them, and his mom is a big part of, in my opinion, the problem. So when he locked me in the basement, his mom had taken them to a wildlife refuge or whatnot. And then this time, I don't know, his mom was staying there at the house sometimes too. So I think she was at the house when he came to get me, and then the girls were asleep at the house. And, they were, oh, mom's here, like they had no idea what was going on.
Right.
Really. So that was kind of... his mom kind of filled in some of those things. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of kept going. Our divorce was final August of 2015, August 13th of 2015. And so I kind of felt like, okay, all right, maybe we can start like just living, right? And so I'd have the girls on my time. I, kind of went back and forth, did the things. And then it was right after Halloween, that year. And it was just a random thing. We had gone to a Chick-fil-A, and this guy had given me his number. And I think I texted him one time, or I called, I can't remember. And after that, I was like, no, this absolutely can't happen. I don't think I was ready, and it just felt dangerous, right? Like I didn't know. And so I kind of let that go. But then it was right after Halloween. And I had the girls. It was my time with the girls. And so he calls, and it's about 8:30 at night, and it's cold in Colorado, and it's early November. And so I just tell the girls, you got to go, Daddy's coming to get you, and they knew what that meant, that we had to get our stuff and get together. So I put their little jackets over their pajamas, got all their stuff, and got them all ready. And I just was going to run out to the house. So I didn't put shoes on. I didn't grab anything. I just had nothing. I just was in basically my pajamas and no shoes. And I go out, and I can see him coming down the drive, and he's driving angry. You can see it. So he pulls up, and I'm going to put him in the door right behind the passenger. And he screams at us that he has dry cleaning and that we need to come around to the other side. So I bring him around to the driver's side to put them in, and I give them their backpacks and their, I love you and kiss, and put them in the back seat of the car. And as soon as I go to shut the car door, he comes at me, and he grabs me by the hair, and he throws me against the back of the truck, and he starts just beating me.
In front of the girls?
In front of the girls in my parents' driveway. And I'm like going, oh my God, what is happening? And I have no idea what's happening. And then he grabs me by the hair, and he throws me in the back of the on the floorboard where the girls are in the back of the truck. And I just like, oh my gosh, girls, I'm coming with you. I'm trying to pretend it's okay. And like, he has just smashed my face in, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. And I'm sitting there in the back by the door, and they're next to me, and we're driving down this gravel road, and it's about a mile to the blacktop. And the whole time I'm thinking, I got to get out. I got to get out. I got to get out. And I'm freaking out. And so we get to the stop sign before you get onto the pavement, and I just decide I have to jump out of the car. So he's going, hasn't quite stopped. I open the door, and I jump out, and I have no shoes on, and it's a gravel road, and there are like bullthorns, and it's a field, and I can see my parents' house in the distance. And it's probably 3 miles away. And I see a car coming, and I'm waving, and I scream, please help me. And they don't stop. And so I'm like, shit, I'm screwed. And so I just start running towards my parents' house, and it's freezing. It's November. I have the thorns digging into my feet. I have gravel digging my feet. I'm just running, and I'm running, and I can hear him behind me. And
he's running after you at this point?
He's chasing me. I can feel him coming behind me, and he has shoes on. And I'm not the fastest runner. And I just keep thinking, okay, just keep running. And he gets me. He grabs me by the arms and kind of whips me back. And he drags me back to the truck. And by the time I can barely even walk. My feet are so they have thorns in them and they're frozen and I can barely even walk. And he starts beating me on the back of the truck. He's just hitting me. And I don't even remember everything that happened. It was just such a blur. But I'm just basically getting the shit kicked out of me. And he takes me by the hair and then he pulls me around to the front of the truck and puts me in the front seat. And I'm sobbing. And
the girls are probably hysterical at this point, or are they just like quiet?
They're quiet. So I don't know if they've just were terrified too. I mean, I'm sure they were. They just saw their mom jump out of a truck. It was just such a chaotic moment. And I don't even remember hearing anything. I think I was just in a like complete state of shock. And they're in the back seat and they have blankets. And so they're kind of tucked up there and we're driving and I'm sobbing. I just can't even stop. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. And I remember saying, God, please save me. God, please save me. And I just said this over and over. And he grabs me by the hair and pulls me down to the console. And he said, God's not going to save you now. And I vividly remember that. And I just remember thinking, he's going to kill me. And like, this is the way I'm going to die. And so we get to the house and he just snaps off and like, oh, come on, girls, I'm going to take you upstairs, like into this doting dad. And I'm just sitting there and, you know, I could have maybe tried to run at that point, but I had nothing left in me. I was so broken at that point. I just thought, you know what, it would be easier if he killed me. Like I can't keep doing this. So I was very broken. And so I walk in the house and I just sit there and then it doesn't stop. He puts the girls to bed and then he takes me into the kitchen and he sits me on the counter like I'm a child and starts screaming at me and berating me for sleeping with this guy and who's this guy you're sleeping with and I'm going to kill him and I'm going to kill you. And I don't even know how long it went on. I mean, I didn't even know this guy's last name. I had no idea. But it goes on for hours. And then finally he just kind of snaps and then says, I think you should take a bath. Let me draw you a bath. And takes me upstairs and puts me in the bath. And I'm like, I can't walk, my face, I have a huge black eye. I mean, my ribs I'm in bad shape. And it was just one of those like, what is happening right now? I am so, I don't even know. I'm so in another world that I don't know what's happening. And I get in the bath and I sit there and then I get in. And he had me sleep in his bed and I'm just in this surreal state of like, oh my God, this is my life. And this just keeps happening over and over again. And so he doesn't let me go home. I wake up the next morning, I look at myself and I don't even recognize myself. I have a huge black eye and I look bad.
And the kids are going to see you like that.
Yeah. And they just glean past it. Hi, mommy. Do you want some breakfast? And that's where I got like, what is happening right now? Like,
yeah. What is going on?
I think we're all just in an alternate universe. And I mean, I like crawl up on the couch. I could barely move all day. He doesn't take me home that day. He takes me home the next day. And I'm terrified to go home because I have a massive black eye. I have nothing to cover it up with at this point.
How was he that day during the day?
Just normal. Like everything was normal. It was so, I mean, he ignored me, but it was terrifying. And I could tell it was kind of a power play. Like, are you going to ask me to go home? Are you going to tell anybody what happened? You know, it was kind of a posturing on that.
For sure.
And I knew that. So he did bring me home and I ran inside and ran right upstairs, you know, away. So no one saw, thank God. And I took a shower and I love makeup, always loved makeup. So then I'm like covering it up and I remember covering it up and like putting my hair just right. And I sent him a picture and said, look, I covered it up. No one will ever know. And that's how broken I was at that point. I was just like, because I think I thought if he knew I would tell somebody, he might follow through with what he's been threatening.
Right.
So I just let that go. And
did he ever do the I love yous and I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Every time. Until a certain point when then I was so broken, he almost didn't even have to do that because he knew I wasn't going anywhere. I was just such a shell. But yeah, he would apologize and, you know, it's not going to happen and, you know, everything's going to be fine and whatever. So yeah, that went on for quite a while. there was another incident kind of right after that, because by that time I was terrified of him. And I think my parents were figuring it out. So my dad told me either you go to a shelter and get some help, or not like live there, but go to a therapist, or you can't live here. And I'm like, oh, God, well, now I'm really screwed, because I don't think they knew the extent. So I did try to go get some help and do some things. And I'm sure he probably knew because he was tracking everything I was doing. But one day I stayed with my brother because my parents were out of town and I didn't want to be alone. And I knew he had found me because I actually saw him driving by my brother's house. And so I was like, oh, crap, he knows something. And when I went home that day, I went in and no one was home yet. My parents weren't home yet. And I went up to the little loft I was living in. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a shower and get ready. And I go in the bathroom and I open the door and I noticed right away that the toilet seat's up, and I'm like super neurotic about putting it down. And so then I'm like, oh, that's weird. Maybe just Dad, whatever. So I get in the shower and I start taking a shower and I dump out the shampoo and start washing my hair with it. And it smells like urine. And I'm like, oh my God, my hair, there's urine in my shampoo. And now it's all making sense why the toilet seat was up. And I'm freaking out. So I rinse my hair out and I'm like drying off. I'm in a towel. So I'm going to go to my room to get dressed. And I open the door and he's sitting there in the chair and just like
demeaning you in any way possible.
And he asked me where I was. And, I'm like, I didn't want to get my brother in trouble. So I'm like, I was at a shelter. I stayed the night. And he was like, didn't believe that. So that just pissed him off even more. But it was just the fact of like, I always tell people like, there's some violent things he's done, but like the peeing in the shampoo was the moment where I was like, this man is unhinged. Like who does that really? And then waits outside to, he's waiting there for you to know that you just put his pee in your hair.
Because he wants to see how much he can do. Like there's no limit for him.
No
just
limit.
keep going. I mean, that's on the same, I mean, for me, somebody spitting on you is just like so demeaning, but holy crap, I've never even heard of something like that.
Yeah. So he was just waiting. So, and at that point I was terrified. I mean, he would do other things. He would come and, I think I only called the police once because he took my camera. He went to my house and took my camera without me. And I tried to get it back and, that led to another kind of like beating. And, I ended up calling because I was so scared. That was my lifeline at that point. How am I supposed to get money? So the police did come and I had marks and I wish I would have said something, but I just told him, oh no, I'm sorry. Like he just took my backpack. It was a misunderstanding. And, so
that's what you were used to always doing.
Yeah. I feel like people don't realize enough that as a survivor, that person and you also kind of know what's going to happen. Even if I would have called the police, how long would he have been in jail? A couple hours? Yeah. And then he's coming out and then who's he going to come get? He's coming for me. So yes, calling the police. And now I know there's processes and things. But at that moment, I didn't trust anyone to keep me safe.
Still scary as hell, yes.
Yeah. And even my parents, I lived with my parents and they couldn't keep me safe. Yeah. To this day, it's very hard for me to mentally trust that anything can keep me safe, right? Other than myself, Yeah. So,
well, speaking on that, and like, I want to touch on something, and if you're not comfortable with it, we could totally just take it out. But, we've had other survivors of domestic violence and very abusive men, and they have children. And if maybe you could just address, if you're comfortable, on why didn't you take the kids? Why, like people will criticize and kind of pisses me off sometimes because they don't understand it. When you're in it, you don't see all those things and you're not thinking clearly. But, I already know people automatically say, well, how could she leave her kids with him?
Well, and it gets worse. I mean, the whole thing with my kids is this is microscopic on the grand scheme of things, what I just told you. Like these are the beginning. Like the next 10 years are probably the more crazy. Like that was when it was crazy, but what he's done since then is 1,000,000% worse than what I just told you. So
even if you want to address that later, now,
but
whatever.
I'm totally happy to, because it is, and that's the one thing I've always said, and that's the one thing I can't. it is impossible to get people to understand.
Yeah.
But I equate it to maybe somebody leaving, or trying to get themselves clean to come back to be in a better place for their kids. I was in no place to be able to take those kids at that moment.
And he hadn't harmed them or anything at that point.
Yeah,
Okay,
to my knowledge, like that at that point. And I think there was so many layers to it that in my mind, I was able to keep him happy, and I was still able to go see the girls. I would take them all the time. I would see them. He would come and get them whenever he wanted, but it doesn't matter. I mean, long after this, I got full custody of him, my children, because I knew I always could. It was how much I was going to piss him off.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just keep going. Okay. I just know how people are, and everybody wants to judge, and everybody wants to say what they would do, which I know is complete bullshit. And it just it like pisses me off a lot when people just want to say their two little lines of what they would have done.
Yeah, and it's all easy to say.
You don't know until you are in it.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely happy to talk about that, because I mean that's where I'm at now.
We'll keep going. Let's keep going. Okay. And if you want to come back to that, we can.
So I'll kind of skip forward a little bit. Yeah. So we went kind of existing, and he started to want to move to Texas in about end of 2015, 2016. So he wanted to move, and I think he needed money. And I think there were things going on. So I came to find out around that time frame that he had stolen a ruby worth $250,000 from one of his clients that he had been working with. And I know he stole it because he told me. And so the cops started to show up, things started happening, and he was under the gun. He also got that second DUI, and they were going to put something in his truck. And so he was trying to get out of Colorado.
Is he still dealing with his whole brain thing too?
The brain thing's going full speed, but the brain thing has now become this ultimate facade for getting out of things, because you can't argue with HIPAA and medical. So this became the ultimate thing for him, between that and my children. So yeah, he stole this ruby, and I know he stole it, and he was trying to get rid of it, and all this stuff, and he needed to get out. So he wanted to move to Texas. So he was going to sell the house and move. And at that point I'm going, okay, I don't even know what I'm going to do. My thought was I was going to stay in Colorado, get my ducks in a row, and then go after custody for the girls, but him far enough away that I wouldn't feel like he was going to show up. Yeah. So that was my thought. Then I also kind of felt like he's going to leave with the kids and I'll never see them again. So it was a bit of I was torn. So my brother's getting married at the beginning of October 2016, and he leaves with the kids right around that time, like the day before. He moves, sells the house, leaves. He's going to stay in Abilene for a period of time with his aunt while he looks for a house in Austin. And I get a call the night before my brother's wedding saying, unless you come down and leave everything behind, you'll never see your children again. And so I'm going, oh my God. So I pour everything I can into my car. I tell my brother, I'm so sorry. Oh, I say goodbye to my family.
And he knows your brother.
He knows my brother's getting married. And I actually did see my grandma before I left. That was the last time I ever saw her. And I put my shit in the car and I drive to Texas. And I have nothing. I have no money. I have nothing. I mean, I have a little bit for my photography, but not enough to survive. So I'm going into this situation, and he just sold the house. So he has a couple $100,000. And so I go and I live with them, and for a bit of time it's back in that positive cycle where he's nice again. And we're living with his aunt, and so it's a little bit harder to be crazy because she's a very sweet lady. I mean, she was so sweet to us, like I can't even tell you. She was so great, and it was really nice that I got to live with the girls, and we would carve pumpkins, and it was very small Texas feel. I really loved it. We'd go to church, and it was such a good experience. I felt really good.
Which they're probably though thinking, we look back now, they're probably like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. How old are they now at this point?
They're about 8 and 5. They're getting a little bit older. So that was probably about 2016. So, I mean, yeah, they're 8 to 10. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were probably ultimately confused on what was happening. It was chaos. but yeah, we stay there for a little bit of time, and it's great. We have such a good time, and then things start to get a little tense there, I think, because he can't keep his demons under control for that long. There's a window of time, so things start to get a little bit more hectic, and things are happening, and so he wants to move to Austin. So I start looking for a job in Austin, and I find a job at the company I work for, and I go down, I interview, I get the job, and I kind of had to stall a little bit because we didn't have a house or anywhere to go or live. And so...
And he's not working.
He's not working. No, he has not worked at all. Still not working. But he's working on, all the disability and this and that. And, he even was trying to get disability, because you can get disability for your children too. So he was getting disability payments for the girls. And then he was also trying to get disability for the other child who hadn't turned 18 yet, which he had never even met in his whole life. It was just a scammy, conny thing to do. So, he's running away from all the things in Colorado. We're living there. We end up getting down to Austin in it's probably January 2017. So we get to Austin, and I'm working. I like my job. I'm, figuring it out. We live in a short-term rental, like an Airbnb, for a little bit, and things are fine. I mean, he's kind of, he went off the rails a few times here and there, but for the most part, I'm just like slightly terrified of him. Like anytime he could just loose cannon, but I also want to be close to the girls.
Right.
So I'm kind of balancing it. And it was probably right around that time I was trying to, figure things out, and I wanted to get a different car. And so I started looking, because I had a big Tahoe at the time, and it was like gas guzzle. So I was thinking about getting a different car, and there were some other things that were coming up, but he was very adamant that not happen. And so I was probably giving him about $500 or $600. I wasn't paying him my full child support at that time because I wasn't working. And
you were still paying him child support?
I paid him child support the entire time. Yeah. And then I had a breast augmentation done right after was born. And that was another thing he was irate about. I mean, and that was one of the ways he would abuse me too, is he would squeeze them and say that he was going to pop them. Because it was like, you would have bruises, but you're not going to show anyone your boob, right? Like it's just that way. And so after he would do that, he would say, you have to pay me, an extra $1,000 every month for that. And so I did. I was paying him probably $1,300 or $1,400 a month, and I wasn't even making that much money. So
you just wanted to be with the girls.
I just wanted to be with the girls. I would do anything for the girls. And I paid him cash. And so that's untraceable. And yeah, so we get to Austin, and I get a letter from the Attorney General saying I owe $17,000 in back child support. So he reported me to the state of Texas that I had not paid any child support.
Because you were giving him cash.
Yeah. So I was like freaking out. And it just so happened that he was planning a trip for our daughter's birthday in February it was 2018 at that point, but he just so happened to be able to find the $15,000 that he could tell them. But I would still have to pay him, this $2,000 that came out of my check, because we were going to go on a trip and I needed my passport. But that was a lot of what the abuse was too.
Well, because you can lose your driver's license and everything. Yeah.
My passport was frozen. My driver's license was going to be frozen.
He wanted more control.
He wanted that, and he wanted the money, but then he wanted to be the savior. Like a lot of the things that happened were these manufactured crises so he could swoop in and be the rescuer. Like he popped my tires, and when I asked my dad for money, he told me I couldn't ask my dad, but I didn't have any money to buy the tires, so he bought the tires. Then I had to be indebted to him. So that was the same thing with the child support. He had to call. Now I know you have to call the state of Texas to tell them, and then he swooped in and was this ultimate savior. So it was like he created the crisis, but yet what's the solution? And it was that back and forth that kept me off balance at all times. So at this point, I'm completely dependent on him. I have a job, but all my money is going to him. And we're living in these houses. We're bouncing from Airbnb to Airbnb. It's just getting crazy. And at that point, that's when he started strangling me. So that's when he started not just scaring you, not just hitting you, but then he started strangling me. And I really didn't think about it as I know it now, I kind of was just thinking it was another thing to deal with. But when I wanted to buy a new car, I told him I was going to buy a smaller car, and I had looked at a convertible and a couple other things, who cares? Why not? I live in Texas now. It's nice. I can do that. I told him that, and he turned around and strangled me and was strangling me and telling me that's not a car a mother should drive. Go back to Colorado. I'm going to kill you. So.
And now that's the first time you got physical since you'd been back around that?
One of the first times. I mean, he had been somewhat physical, but it wasn't as bad, and so I kind of categorized it as, all right, this or that. It wasn't as bad. But then he started the strangling, and then that continued for it got progressively worse from there. So it was probably, I don't remember exactly when I bought the car, but I did buy a smaller car. I ended up going with just a simple Jetta, like a very, very simple, basic car. But he was still super mad. He told me I couldn't register it at the house, and he told me that, all this stuff. So he was really mad about the car, that I needed to take it back. And it was just, that created a whole...
And you did that on your own?
I did it on my own.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, that was a big problem. And throughout the whole time we lived in Austin, even before that, he would kick me out at periodic times. So he would just tell me I had to leave. And I lived out of a suitcase. I was pretty much sort of homeless, when he was allowing me to be there, I could be there. But if he kicked me out, I would sleep in my car. And I joked one day, I'm going to get a gym membership because I had enough money for a gym membership so I could take a shower.
Take a shower, yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought. So I lived in my car, and he would kick me out, and then he'd tell me I could come back, and just constant off balance.
So when he would kick you out, what could he possibly say to get you to come back?
I didn't have anywhere else to go.
He was just like, come back?
You can come back. Don't act stupid. I'm like, okay. I don't know what I did, but okay. Whether it was more money or I think it was just the psychological breaking down of that. And he knows I will do anything for my kids. And I know that, I think that's a side note, but I believed, and I still believe in some ways, if I would have fought back and I would have taken custody and I would have ran and I would have done these things that everyone traditionally says you can do, that would have solved the problem. But I believe that he would have killed me. And I believe he would have probably killed my kids. And I see stories all over and over again where the woman ends up dead and her kids end up dead. And I believe it's because she said, I'm leaving you and I'm taking the kids. And I know that people will judge me for the way that I approach this, but I'm here and I'm alive and my kids are alive.
They're usually not survivors.
No.
They're usually people who have never even been through anything close to that. Yeah. So really their opinion doesn't matter. It just sucks that people put it out there like that.
And you don't know. You have no idea what you would do.
No clue.
Sitting in my shoes and dealing with that for that long. And it's not an easy fix. You can't just call the police and solve the problem. You can't even just go to court and solve the problem.
Which is horribly sad.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to.
Yeah. Oh, but it's not.
It's supposed to be in place for those things, you know?
Yeah. So, that was all of that, happening in Austin, and things were bad. And, the girls are growing up at this point, and I'm trying to just keep things normal and just cope. I'm doing okay at work. Things are going okay. And I also know he's probably seeing some other women now, which I'm fine with. I don't care. We're divorced. Right. I don't really care. I'm living here. I'm just trying to see my children. But yet I could never go out and live anywhere else or do anything else. And which is fine. I was accepting it at that point. But there was a time when he moved into another house. Him and his mom bought a house, a big house, and great neighborhood, wonderful. So I had ended up living out there with them for a little bit. And it was, again, back and forth. He would kick me out, let me come back, kick me out, let me come back. And there was a couple times he'd kick me out and say, oh, we're doing this, airtight survey of the house and you need to go stay in a hotel. And I'm thinking, well, why can't I stay with you guys in a hotel? Like, that's so weird. But they would go stay in this hotel supposedly, and I'd have to go stay in a other hotels. So I think I know that now that I found all the Facebook things, and there was another woman, and he had started this GoFundMe campaign that he's a single dad and he's trying to support his daughters. And I think it raised like $18,000 or $20,000. And so all these women are sharing these things, and she must
Poor guy.
Yeah, that's he's a single dad, and he's got this health issue, and their mom is evil
And crazy and all the things. Yeah.
Yep. So that just continued forever. So he kicked me out again in 2017 a little bit. My boss had a little house I lived in. I got I got a little condo. I furnished it. So excited, okay, I'm doing my own thing. And then the day I moved in there, he came down and, he called and berated me for hours, saying he needed to know where it was. And I didn't want to tell him. And finally, I just broke down and told him, and he showed up. It was an hour away. He showed up with the girls and told me, there's no way I'm ever letting my children come here. It smells like smoke. You need to move out. So I broke the lease. I sold all the furniture and I went back again. And so I'm back.
His mom, she's just enabler, just kind of sitting back and watching it all.
She is part of the problem. She will enable him, and she becomes worse and worse as it goes on. Yeah. So I mean, she lives there, but there's no support. She's definitely part of the problem. So I'm back again. I lived there for a while, and then it was about September of 2018. So I start seeing him with a couple parents and other moms, and I am never allowed to go to the school. I can never meet the teachers. I don't know anyone, and I'm also working, so I think that ties into his narrative. But he has everyone believing he is this amazing single dad that does everything, right? So I never can go to the schools or events or anything. And my children start saying, well, Mom, we don't want you there. You don't need to come. And that's this slow erosion. So
he's getting in their head now.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of dealing with it because I want to be there, but I don't really have a way to get out. And then I see this woman coming around. I don't really know her, but they're going, on all these events and things. And he tells me I have to leave again. And I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. I literally just had a place to live, and you told me to come back. And I said, my children want me here. And I argued for probably 20 minutes trying to say, no, I'm going to stand my ground. Like you told me to leave, and I came back. And he said, I'm going to go get the girls, and they're going to tell you. So he brings our daughters down, and he makes them tell me that, Mom, we don't want you here, and you're just not happy here, and we want you to leave. And they're sobbing and like hiding their faces in pillows. And I just say, okay. And I put my stuff in the car again, and I'm off. And I luckily my boss had that little house, it's like a little 500 square foot, little tiny house that I ended up staying in. And so I go and I'm living there. And, that was just the beginning. And then now it is the other women enter the picture. And, up to this point, I really believed I was the only person he was physically abusing. And so I had no idea of anything else. And I knew he had moved another woman in because he asked me one day to come and take care of the dogs. And we had 2 dogs. Very nervous because he was angry, and I didn't feel right about it. But he also knew I wouldn't just leave the dogs. And so I go out an hour away to take care of the dogs. And he tells me he leaves a key under the mat for me to take care of the dogs. And I get there and I bend down to get the key, and he opens the door and he grabs me and drags me inside and starts beating me and rips the necklace off my neck. And I don't remember if he strangled me that time. I think he did because the necklace was broken and it was all just a blur. And the whole dog thing was a setup, And I don't even remember what he was mad about that time. But I just remember looking around, and there were women's belongings and boys' toys all over. There were other people's things in the house. And so I'm in this state of like absolute panic because he's attacking me, but I'm also going, okay, what's happening? And I'm like making a appraisal of everything. Mm-hmm. And so after a while, he lets me go, and I leave and go back. And I'm just like, mental note, somebody else is there. And And so that kind of went on through the fall of that 2018.
I can't even imagine what you were thinking, though, like being that abused and that be down for so long. Like after that would happen, just probably the thoughts going through your head as you're just going back to your little place.
I believed I was
were
never
there.
going to get away.
Yeah.
There was no way out.
Like
And
that's your life. This is my life.
I saw no way out. And I'd seen him get away with so many things over the years. Like, I mean, he's still at this point, trying to get away with that Ruby case. He's pushing it out. He had gotten away with the DUIs. He had gotten away with so many scams and
Yeah,
things.
he's never has consequences.
Never. And I've seen all these things. So I'm sitting there going, he's going to get away with it. And my word over his, I don't know, and I was so trapped. And that's where I'm like, have this complex PTSD, which is really hard to understand. But when you believe there's no way out, you just survive.
Yeah.
You survive. And you almost get closer to the person to keep them close, right? Like I've got to keep, like I said before, I'm like, I'm going to keep this close so I know, because I don't want to be surprised.
Yeah.
So about that time I started planning. So I started recording phone calls. I started documenting everything. I always kind of had two cell phones at this point. So the one he knew about and the other one. So I'd flip the cell phone over and I'd record conversations and he'd call and berate me. So that was like October of 2018. He was mad about something and he wanted me to have sex with him. And I was like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I don't want to meet you. I don't want to have, because that was his kind of way of controlling. And I told him no. He was so mad. And
was that really the first time you said no?
Yeah, that was the first time, because I had a place to live. So I thought, okay, maybe I can get away. And no. And so then he started saying he was going to blackmail me and he was going to get me, fired from my job. And, I work with young children. So he was going to get me fired for this. And in my mind going, with what? I'm going to send naked pictures. Okay, we were married for years. What are you even talking about? Like, I don't care. Like, I know I've lived a good life. I haven't done anything. Right. So I was kind of like laughable at that. Like, go ahead, do whatever you want. But I have hours of recordings of him telling me this, that he's going to blackmail me, that he's going to kill me, that he's going to find me. It's just on. And I hate listening to them because I'm so neurotically frantic at that point. I'm crying and I'm like, why are you doing this? And,
right. Which is totally normal for where your headspace was at that point.
But it was like the juxtaposition to go, I'm going to record this conversation and yet I'm going to be absolutely broken at the same time. It was a very weird thing to be. But I think I've always known how horrible he is. I just didn't have a way out. Yeah. I just didn't have a way out. So this was like, okay, I'm going to start recording things. And so I have all these recordings and things are happening. And then I'm telling him, no, I'm not. And it was October and I was getting ready for work, and the little house, literally it's probably the size of this office, very small, and 2 little bedrooms with no doors on it, and a tiny bathroom and a tiny kitchen. So it was a very small, quaint little place, and I loved it. It was super sweet. It has a little porch off the front, and I'm leaving for work, and I open the door, and I'm taking the trash out, and I have a smoothie in my hand and my bag over the corner, and I open the door, and he's standing there. And he gets me in a headlock, and I start screaming because it's also close to one of the child cares, so that they're kind of connected. So I work for child care, so they're kind of connected. And I'm like, okay, if the girls hear me screaming, maybe someone will come and help me. Like maybe someone will hear me. Yeah. And so I'm screaming and I'm screaming and I'm screaming and no one's coming. And so finally I say, okay, I got to pivot. And he tells me I have to call my boss or text her and tell them I'm sick today. And so he locks all the doors, and I have 2 cell phones, so I'm freaking out. He's going to find the other cell phone. And so I'm in a moment of like, I've got to hide the cell phone. And he's like, give me your phone. And so I'm like, okay, reach into my bag, and it's on the couch. And I grab the cell phone he knows about, and I grab the other cell phone and I slide it in the couch cushion and I give him the phone, praying he didn't see me hide the other phone. And he didn't. And so he texts my boss that I'm sick and I'm in this little house with him. I thought about this the other day. I feel like I had God on my side in a lot of these times, because every time he would strangle me, it just so happened that we were on a soft surface, like a bed or a chair or something. And I had a moment the other day of just like, that was like God saving me, because I think if I had been on a hard surface and he would have strangled me, he would have killed me. Like, he just had these black eyes, like, and I know everyone says that, but if you haven't experienced it, you would know,
They just look soulless.
it's
like,
just black.
Yes.
Like, it's gone. The person is gone. And there's no talking to, there's no nothing. I mean, I had spent 20 years of my life with this person at this point, and he got me in this big oversized chair, and he was strangling me, and he was telling me he was going to kill me, and I needed to go back. If he didn't kill me, I needed to go back to Colorado, and I'd never see our girls again. And I'm a horrible excuse for a mother. And I don't even know how long it lasted. I was fighting for a while, and then I finally kind of lost the will to fight. And I just, again, I went to the place like, okay, if he kills me, he kills me. And he let go, and he's sitting in the chair now, and he puts me on the floor, and he grabs me by the hair. He had a thing with my hair, and he tells me that I think I'm so beautiful. I think, that I think I'm beautiful. And he said, "You're ugly. You're so ugly. I'm going to cut your hair off, and no one will ever think you're beautiful again." And so we went and got an old kitchen knife, and he's sitting in this chair, and I'm sitting on the floor, and he's, I'm thinking, I don't know if he's going to kill me, if he's going to cut off my hair. Like, is this the way I die? Like, sitting here on the floor, like, in this tiny little house. Like, it was just one of those, like, okay, I don't know. What am I doing? And so that goes on for a while. And that time he did force me to have sex with him. And then after that, again, it was like the light switch. He's like, "I'm going to take you to brunch. Let's go to brunch." And I get in the car, and I remember sitting at brunch going, how many other people are sitting in this restaurant right now across from their abuser, and you just pretend it's okay.
Yeah.
And you go about your day, and no one ever knows. And I know I remember I made a promise early on when like the violence started that I was going to be a person that when someone met me, they would never believe my story, and they would never believe what I'd been through. And I was going to embody like a good person, and a person with a good heart, and someone who chose to take the high road and do the right thing no matter what. And I have done that. But it wasn't always easy. But I also wanted to be a testament to like what people could get through, and all the things that you do go through. And that was a great thing and a bad thing, because I could keep it. I could just put it in that little box, and I could go to work, and no one would know. And no one knew. My family didn't know. I didn't have a lot of friends, but no one knew what was going on. And it was a good thing and a bad thing, So,
You get really good at hiding it.
you do. You get really good at doing life by yourself. And, I literally had a metaphorical box that it was like a 2x4 artillery box that I would just put all my trauma in. And even to this day, like when things are too much, I just literally like put it in the box, shut it, and I have to deal with it at another time. And I'll set a day and a time, like on Friday at 5:00, I will deal with that trauma.
Yeah.
But right now I've got to, do.
Unfortunately, you have a system down.
Yeah. So, that was that. He brought me home, and everything was fine, and went about his day. And that happened again about 2 weeks later, because I went to a trivia with coworkers. I tried to live, and he was pissed. He was
How dare you?
Yeah, and he was texting me while I was in trivia, which you can't have your phone in trivia, and saying he had a medical emergency. He was in the hospital, and that was always the thing, manufactured crises. And so I was so selfish for going to a bar when he was in the hospital, and the girls and this and that. And so I left as soon as I saw, and I said, "I'm so sorry." But he was pissed. And then I have hours of phone calls again about the trivia. So I'm recording all of these phone calls, and he's so mad at me for that. And then again, about 2 weeks later, I'm leaving for work. Same thing. He's standing outside, but I'm vigilant now. So I open the door a little bit and I could see his shadow, and he puts his foot in the door. So I couldn't pull it back. And he comes in again, same thing, strangles me. I'm like, this is so deja vu. Like, I literally was here 2 weeks ago. And I don't even remember everything that happened that time, but it was
Like,
very
what is
similar.
he even saying? Like, when he comes back in again, like,
That I'm selfish, that I'm a horrible mother. It was always surrounded by my mother, my mothering ability.
because that's your weakness. Your girls are your weakness.
Yeah. And he just knew exactly what my heartstrings were. And unless I did what he said and everything he wanted, he would keep the girls from me. And that was what it was. And I mean, it's still that way.
And you probably believed him because that's the shit he did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was always in fear he would like run to Canada or something, or another country or something.
Right.
I literally had those fears.
Right.
So he did it again, and I just kind of accepted it. It was just like, okay, well, this isn't my life. Let me just get my stuff back together and go back to work, and so that continued on. And Christmas was a mix of things. He would let the girls come, and then he'd say, oh, they have to leave, and then he'd pick them up, and then he'd let them stay, and it was just very chaotic. And then right after Christmas, I was at my breaking point. I wanted to go home. I hadn't really been able to be with my family, and everything was really, really secretive because if he hated me talking to my family, so I had to like lie about everything. And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to go home. I was trying to plan a trip. I didn't really know how that was going to happen because he's just so violent. And so I postponed it a few times. And then it was around New Year's, he said he had to have this medical flight. And he was going to the Mayo Clinic, and he had to be specially flighted there, and he might die. And, all this big giant story, and that the girls were coming. And I'm like, that's weird. Okay. I knew it was crap, but I just played along.
Seems pretty serious to tag the girls along.
Yeah, that was my thought too. And it was just like and that was always the over the top things. He would always say, I'm going and I'm going to die. And, he'd use a voice changer and pretend he was a doctor and that he was in the hospital.
No.
And yeah. Oh yeah. No, that was always what it was. So, I just accepted it and went about it. And it was New Year's. They FaceTimed me for like 3 seconds. I think it was just to make sure I was home and not anywhere else. And then it hung up, and I'm like, that was weird. And it was January 5th of 2019, and I get a text message from him at like 10 o'clock at night, and he said, what's your address? And I'm like, my address. Like, what? And during this time of Christmas, I had got a puppy. So I'm like, I'm going to get a puppy. So I got this Frenchie Boston mix. So he's like tiny, cute, sweet little puppy. So sweet. His name was Hudson. And so I'm like, hanging out with this puppy. He's so sweet. I'm so excited. And
you have a little bit of joy.
Yeah. And he was just a sweet little fun puppy. And so I get this weird text on the 5th, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, whatever. So I text him my address just because I'm like, this is weird. Well, about 30 minutes later, I hear a knock on my door. And I'm freaking out, but I peek out and I see my younger daughter on the front. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And so I open it and I say, hey, sweetie, what's going on? She said, oh, I just need to go potty real bad, Mom. Can we come in? And I'm like, okay. So she comes in, has her little suitcase, and, I let her use the restroom. And then I have a little room set up for them. And so they go into this little room with this pull-out.
She had her suitcase?
Yeah. And then my older daughter comes up with her suitcase, and I'm like, hi, what's going on? And she said, well, we just stopped here, Mom. And I said, okay. And then I see him come through, and I can tell he's drunk. I can just see it from
driving
a mile
with them.
Away. He took an Uber.
Okay.
So he gets dropped off by an Uber at my house, and he's obviously drunk. He's really drunk and angry. And so the girls go in, and mind you, there's no doors. It's a tiny little place with no doors. And so they go into this bedroom, and I'm standing there with the puppy, and he said, you got a fucking dog. And I said, no, it's my coworkers. I'm like panicking, like, this is not my dog. I'm just watching this dog.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to deal with it with where he was. And then he starts just laying into me about everything, how I'm a horrible person. And it was always the same thing. I'm a horrible mom, whatever. And then he strangles me again, same chair, third time in less than 3 months. So I don't even remember what happened to the dog at this point because I was just so traumatized. And that lasts for a while. He knocks over my TV stand. I mean, just the house is in disarray and he's screaming and then he says, I'm having a seizure. And I've seen him have a seizure. This was not a real seizure, but he's lying on the ground saying the microwave radiation is hurting my brain. And it was just like over the top. I'm like, what is happening? But I'm terrified. I mean, what is happening right now? And so after that, he calls my older daughter to come out and help him. And so her little face comes out and helps. And he's like, look at what a fucking loser your mom is. And she hurt me. And I'm like looking at her, like wanting to go to her, but knowing if I do, it's probably going to make both of our lives a living hell. And so she says, it's okay, Dad. And she gets him and takes him back in. And they go into the room and I'm like frozen in place. And I just wait until I hear his breathing regulate. Like, when you can tell someone's asleep. And so I'm standing frozen in place like, oh my God, okay. And finally go back in bed. I have the puppy with me. I'm sleeping. I don't fall asleep for a long time. Like I'm just wired. And I finally fall asleep. And in the morning I hear him because he has a limp because of his brain condition. There's a little bit of a limp that started to develop. And I hear him like thump, 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 thump. And he was going to the bathroom. And then he came out and he's standing in the doorway of my bed. And he just starts yelling at me and getting mad at me. And he comes over to me and he grabs me by the hair again and he's going to cut my hair off. And he tells me I'm ugly and I'm, a horrible person and all the things. And so he grabs me and then he takes the puppy and he starts hitting me over and over and over with the puppy. And the puppy's screaming and I'm screaming.
And he thinks this is someone else's puppy too.
Yeah. And it's just
does not give a shit.
It doesn't care. And I'm screaming and he says he's going to cut off my hair and he's going to go find scissors. So I make a snap decision to run. I grab the dog, I grab my keys and I run out the front door to my car. I get in my car and I drive away and I'm freaking out. Like I text him, I said, get out of my fucking house or I'm going to call the police. Like you have 5 minutes to get out of my house or I'm calling the police. And I drive around just far enough where I can see the facade of the house. And he's like, I can't, I have to get an Uber and the girls. And I said, I don't care. And I literally have 911 on dial. Like, I don't care. I'm calling the police. Like, you're so crazy right now. And I think at that moment, it just kind of snapped. And a couple minutes later, I see them kind of come out and they go off on the Uber and I wait about 10 or 15 minutes more. And then I finally go back to the house and it's just a mess. And he leaves this sign that he had the girls give me that's like, if things don't work out, take another shot or something like that. This is like the motivational thing. Like, and that I think was his way of apologizing and, I'm sorry. But I also see on the ground 3 bag tags from a flight. So I pick up the bag tags and I see 1 is my daughter's name. And then 2 is the woman that I saw him from school and her son. And then I look up where the tags were from and it was Orlando. So they had been on a vacation to Orlando. Now, fast forward to now, I've never met this woman, but it all started to come out that he had her move in and they went for a family vacation and he got really angry while they were on vacation, drank a whole bottle of wine, was screaming at her on the plane. She left with her kids to get out away from him. And then he comes over and beats the crap out of me. So, and our stories overlap. So it's everything he's doing to me, he's doing to her. So it's that September period. So I didn't know that at the time. I just now knew this person, they were on vacation and I was putting it together. So I kind of started to put it together. I told my boss what happened because I was living at her house. She needed to know. And so they put up security cameras everywhere, inside, outside. She was really, really great. And I made, I don't want to call it a mistake, but I had a coworker coming and she was going to stay in the house with me because she was from out of town. And I made the mistake of telling her what happened because it was just so bottled up that I needed to tell somebody.
To confide in someone, yeah.
Yeah, and so I told her what happened, and I told her, he had hit me with the dog, and I, in hindsight, it was a blessing that I told somebody. But she called, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure, called CPS. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I had also made the decision to leave. And so I figured out through my IT department how to clear my phone of any like tracking software. So we cleared everything off. I bought a ticket to Colorado and I left. And I went to Colorado for a week. And then that's when the CPS investigator called and said, there's an open case and you need to come back. And I thought it was him, my ex, trying
Pulling something.
lure me back and try to find me, because he also had, he called welfare checks on me while I was gone. He showed up, I think it was probably 5 or 6 times. So we have the footage of him showing up at like 5 a.m. at my house. He showed up at 10 o'clock at night.
He didn't know you left.
He didn't know I left. He couldn't find me. He couldn't track me anymore. He wasn't, able to get a hold of me because I went completely dark. So he's not knowing where I am, and
he's spiraling now. Yeah.
He's lost it, and he lives an hour away. So every single time he'd have to drive at 5 a.m., leaving at 4 to get to my house at 5 a.m. So he showed up 3 or 4 days at 5 a.m., 3 or 4 days at 10 p.m. He showed up one day after work. And that one, when I watched the footage, is slightly terrifying because it's cooler and it's January and he has a hoodie on, but he has a hoodie over his arm and there's something underneath the hoodie and he's like holding it in a really weird way. And so I'm like watching this video of him showing up like when I should be getting home from work, and he has this hoodie and then he hides it. Like I have a little table with a chair, so he hides it. And then a maintenance person comes to work on something and you can see his eyes going, I gotta hide this. And so then he hides it somewhere else. And then he hides this sweatshirt somewhere else. And I just in my mind always go, what was in the sweatshirt? Was it a gun? Was it something that he knew he could just shave my head with? Like, I don't know. He was really obsessed with cutting my hair, the shampoo and things. So it was just a really surreal feeling. And I knew like, I can't ever go back. And that was kind of the moment I could never go back. So I went to Florida. That's when I really went into like witness protection type of thing. Not for real, but I hid. I went to Florida for a couple weeks. My boss let me work remote for a while.
So that was your like holy shit moment.
That was the moment of there was no return. There was, I think the dog incident and then the strangulations leading up to that, it had gotten so intense that I believe like he wasn't there when he was strangling me, so he had no presence of how long he was strangling me or what. And I mean, really, I think I was saved by the soft cushions of a bed or a thing, because I don't know if he would have stopped, And so that was my moment. And I went home and I told my family what had happened and what I had been going through. And, I have such a great support network. I could not have done it without them. So, we kind of all sprung into action, and they helped me find a different apartment. I moved, I kind of worked remote for a while because he knew he was showing up at work and showing up at places. And I was still really reluctant to get a protection order at that point because I thought that would piss him off more. So I felt like I just needed to get some distance. But this is also when I couldn't talk to the girls. And so probably my biggest regret is leaving that time, but it was kind of like I said, I had to leave to get myself safe. I literally could not get safe. No matter what, I tried to stay and do what he asked, but it got to the point where he was going to kill me and he would be in jail. And
they would end up without parents.
Without parents. And I wrote myself a letter basically saying that at that point, like, I'm sorry, but I have to get safe and get a place where I can be safe. So I did start going to the domestic violence shelter therapy and things. And so I kind of was building up a network, but he was still looking for me all the time. And I ended up going back to work, and my boss was great. I mean, she like got armed security and things. And, it was just like everyone chipped in so much, and my family helped and everything. But I'm living in this little apartment and I felt fairly safe, not really, but safe as you can. And I started going back to work. It was right around Valentine's Day. I went back to work, and I do trainings. And so I'm training with these new teachers, and I'm kind of oblivious of what's happening around me. But while I'm in training that day, he shows up with the girls, and they have flowers and cards, and everyone in my office is like, you can't be here. Like, you need to leave. And so you just see on the security footage, my children's faces are just crushed because they probably had good intentions to come see their mom.
Yeah.
But he knew he shouldn't have been there. And so that moment will like live in infamy with my children because they believed that I didn't want to see them. That wasn't the case. But he left me this letter, like, I love you and be my wife. And, it was just like, and he left me a stuffed pig, like covered in his cologne. And it was just like, this is crazy. Like, we've been divorced for a really long time. You've been abusing me for years and I'm not going to do this anymore. And he was not having it.
Well, he had never seen you be strong like that and say no and stand up to him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
probably driving him crazy.
Yeah, I think that made him go absolutely mad. And I think that was the beginning of the end for a lot of things for him. I think it started to be a slow progression into him losing it completely. Yeah, because even during this time now, I know he was in a relationship with this other woman and her 2 children were living there and he was doing the same things to her. He like pulled a gun on a doctor that came to help her take some stitches out at his house. He did crazy things with her too. And it was all simultaneously happening when he was doing those things to me. So it was kind of the beginning of the end for him on that. And so it's
like, how did he even accomplish that though?
He had no job. You think about the most dangerous people. It blows my mind to think he would literally
2 families like that
go and he had meshed. This woman was now my daughter's mother. So that was the other thing. He would bring women in and they would be their mom. And my children believe these other women and he now I find in hindsight, I guess, he'd bring these other women in with their children, mostly 2 boys, and want to have this big, huge family. And he'd use my children as pawns to get these women because that immediately disarms someone because he's a single dad and he has these
They don't have
daughters.
a mom around.
Their mom doesn't want them. And then my daughters have gotten so brainwashed that they buy in and they'll get these women to come back after he abuses them. Like, please, I'm so sorry. My dad loves you.
Oh,
so
God.
He uses them and which is terrifying. But I kind of enter into this like protection thing. He finds me my car. I'm still really nervous. I do go back to work one other time and we have a footage of him putting a tracking device on my car. So we call the police and I'm hesitant to press charges at this point because I'm still like, he might kill me. Like, they say I have a little window of time to do it. So I just kind of hold that in my back pocket and realize I've got to get rid of my car. Like, he knows my car. So we end up getting rid of the car. Actually, we just hide the car and we get a different car. So I get a different car, like an old Audi, old Q7, and I'm living in this apartment and I realize I also have to hide the way I look. So I start buying wigs. And so I'm wearing wigs and I'm driving to Walmart, like probably a mile or 2 away from my office. So every day when I go to work, I take a different route. I wear a wig. I wear like different clothing so I look different. I drive to Walmart. I get in my coworker's car. My coworker drives me right up to the front and, I wear a hood or wigs and things and I go in to work. So this goes on for a while.
Well, at this point, you're probably just thinking the only next step he can take is to kill me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just kept thinking, just leave me alone. Yeah. Just leave me alone. You have other women. Like, it was just leave me alone. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Just leave me alone. And I couldn't even call the girls at this point because I'd try to call my daughter and he'd get on the phone. And then it'd be this 3-hour, rant about all of these things that made no sense. And I know if I get into that mode, he'll try to pull me back in. And I absolutely can't get pulled back in.
That's why you have to completely cut it off.
Yeah, for sure. And he's having my daughter text me this whole time, which is not my daughter. It's way too advanced vocabulary. And, she's asking me to come and meet them. And I'm saying, I can't be around your dad. And she's saying, well, unless we're going to be a family, you're never going to see us again. And so that's when the real alienation started. Like, he knew he couldn't get me to do what he wanted. So he was going to use my kids and I was never going to have a relationship with them again. Yeah. So that was that. And I hid for a long time. And then it was Mother's Day. I couldn't take it anymore. I called him and said, please, I just want to talk to the girls. I just miss them so much. And it was Saturday night before Mother's Day. And he's like, I'm open to talking about that, and goes in and he's like crying, like, I miss you so much. And I just want to, be a family and, all this stuff. And then he kind of switches, and I have a recording of it because, again, I'm recording everything. And he says, well, it must be nice living in the name of my neighborhood. Well, it must be nice driving the name of my car. That takes time. It takes time to find those things, time you're not giving to your daughters. And I'm like, oh my God, he knows where I am. He knows where I am. He knows where I am. And I'm freaking out. And so I'm talking to him for a little while longer. And then finally I say, I just don't have anything to do with you. Please leave me alone. I just want to talk to the girls. I just want to have a relationship. And it was probably about 10 minutes later, I hear a knock on my door and no one knows where I am. And so I'm freaking out. I call the police, and I think I might have still a temporary order from the tracking device. So I'm calling, like, I think I have an order for him to stay away. Can you please send the police? And she's like, there's no order. You don't have an order. And I'm like, okay, well, can you send the police anyway? And I peek out the front window and I can see his truck down the way. And I never could muster the courage to go down the stairs and look at the door. But I'm like, he found me. He knows where I am. And so I start freaking out, thinking about what I can do next. And then the next day is Mother's Day. And
did the police come?
Police came. They're like, well, there's nothing we can do. He's not here. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot that's happening. And he's like, well, my recommendation is go get a protection order on Monday. And I'm like, okay, but what if I'm dead? Like,
yeah, I might not make it to then.
Yeah. And so the next day is Mother's Day, and it's about midday, and I hear my door again. And this time I'm like, I have to go down. So I have the police on the phone, and I look out the front and I see him, and he's standing on my front porch. And I'm just like, okay, what am I going to do? So I tell him, I see him, he's here. And he's like, well, we're on our way. And by the time they get here, he's not there anymore. So there's nothing they can do. And he leaves a card, a Mother's Day card on the mat, and it's basically the same thing, like, I'm
being the nice guy he is.
Yeah, let's be a family. I want to cherish you, my wife. It's just like insane. I mean, we'd been divorced since 2015. It's 2019 at this point. And some other crazy things have happened since then. So are you absolutely crazy? And right now you're in a relationship with another woman. Like, he didn't know I knew that, but like, you're asking this other woman to marry you. What are you even doing? It was just mind blowing.
I don't think you can make sense of it.
No.
Because it is insanity.
Yeah, he's so insane. It's just like, what is your end goal? So yeah, I mean, I think I ended up going to get a protection order the next day. I went on Monday and got it. And then I had to go and see him, and he wouldn't agree to it. So in Texas, they do 2-year orders as a standard, but he got a lawyer and wanted to fight it and was really angry. So I'm like, okay. So we agreed to 18 months, and I'm like, okay, that'll give me a little bit of a bearing. And in there was the language that he needed to bring our daughters to the grocery store every other week so I could start seeing them. And so I was like, okay, well, now we have the language in Texas. I have an order. He has to stay this far away from me. Okay, I made some progress. He never brought them. He brought them one time in September, and they walked to my car and said, Mom, we don't want to see you. And I could see they were just scared. We're not ready to see you. We're scared of you. And they turned around and walked right back. And so every week I would show up to the grocery store at the time, and I'd wait every week. And I'd buy a pack of gum so I could say, okay, here I'm here, and take my picture and wait and wait and wait. And they never show up. And so by this time I hadn't seen them.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I tried to call, and nothing. And I have recordings of them too. Just, Mom, we're not ready to see you. We're scared of you. And it's so rote and rehearsed. And all this time he's brainwashing them. They're gone. They're gone. They're never coming back. And unless I did what he wanted, which was come back and be under his control, I was never going to get to see those kids. Yeah. And it continued during that time. And during that time, I had started to feel a little bit more safe after I got that protection order. I'd actually met a gentleman at the gym. And so we were kind of dating and talking, and he was very sweet. And that was really nice. It was nice to kind of, I felt a bit of a conflict because it was hard to feel happy and not have your kids.
Yeah.
And I felt really guilty for a lot of that. But he was amazing. He was great. He actually was in recovery and just a sweet person. We kind of bonded over our trauma,
yeah,
and like that way. And we were supportive. And, we were both like, let's both go to therapy. And, we were just we had such a great time. So we really connected, and he was really great.
It's like exactly what you needed then.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was such a good balance. And he was a big, strong guy. So I felt, okay, somewhat more safe, not completely, but, it was nice. And so we kind of started dating and seeing each other. And over that time, I kind of got the courage up to say, I'm going to take him back, my ex back to court to get more custody, like legal custody of the girls. And so I started that process, and, which again made him really mad. But I felt like I was gaining some strength back. And so that was great. And so I was like kind of 2019, into 2019. I still hadn't seen the girls. So that was probably January. I had not last seen them. So I didn't see them all of 2019. Oh. And it was that was probably one of the more hard times for sure. I mean, I always say, like, all the violence was not anything compared to, like, the heartbreak of losing your kids and not seeing them and not knowing if they were okay and not really having a way to do anything. Like, I can take him back to court, but, I mean, I had the ability. He was supposed to be bringing them. He wasn't bringing them. So really the only thing you can do is go back to court. Right. And so, yeah, kind of 2019, the gentleman I was dating, we ended up, getting a little bit more serious. He moved in kind of towards the end of the year, and it was nice. It was really nice to like have a house, and we got a puppy, and it was just like, okay, things are going to start.
You were seeing like what normal could be like.
Yeah, it was so great. And so beginning of 2020, I got an order saying he needed to bring the girls, and we were going to start reunification therapy. So that's January of 2020. And, we were making some progress, and I was feeling really good about it. And then, COVID hit. And so everything kind of grinded to a halt with the custody. Also things kind of started becoming more difficult with, the gentleman I was dating and living with. Not personally, but I could just see like he couldn't go to meetings anymore. Churches were shutting down. He was working in the treatment facilities as kind of a salesperson and helping and getting people into treatment. And that all kind of started to slow down. And then all of a sudden it was probably about April of 2020. And I just saw something change. And I remember it was around my birthday. He messaged me and said, I need to talk to you. And in my mind, I'm like, he's breaking up with me, because I'm like so naive. I have no idea about anything. I'm learning about treatment and recovery and addiction. And I loved the community. I mean, I never felt more like understood when I was with those people. And, they were just so fun and real. And I felt it was really good for me to be in that community. And
how long had he been in recovery at this point?
He was in recovery about 3 or 4 years when I met him. Okay. So he was about 3 or 4 years, probably close to 5 years at this point. And he told me that day I came home that he had relapsed, and I was like, okay, I have no experience in this, but sure, we can deal with this, right? And I'm still dealing with all this other stuff with my kids and my ex, and I'm just like, okay, we'll deal with it. And so I kind of try to figure out what we're going to do. And so we think, okay, well, maybe he'll just do a detox. I had no idea of the seriousness of any of it, and everything was happening. And I'm feeling a little bit of the things that with my ex-husband, like I had to hide things or like that. I didn't want my family to think less of him. Right. Like he's a wonderful person.
Just you have to save him.
I have to save him. Yeah. I've got to save him. I've got to do this. And, I'm still going to work because we were deemed like required. So I'm not hanging out at home with him every day, which is probably part of the problem. And he's home with nothing to do. And so it just spirals more and more and more and more and more. And then he starts, doing things that, taking money, taking things. It just got really, really bad. And I'm literally at my wit's end. Like, you either need to get help. I'm trying to do custody things. I'm trying to keep myself safe. I need you to be supportive. And I know he's going through his own demons. So it was really hard. I want to be supportive. But I told him, you need to go. You need to go to treatment. Let's talk to your family. And so, everyone rallied around and got him in and got him to a good place where he would go. And so that was kind of over the summer of 2020. So literally we're in the pandemic. He's off here. I'm trying to deal with the things with the girls. And And I'm, reassuring him, I'll be here when you get back. You just need to do this and, we'll figure it out.
Was it like a 30-day that he was going to?
Initially, but then it ended up, he was there for 90 days. Okay. It kind of went longer and longer and he wasn't ready to come back. And, the things that kept me alive with my ex-husband ruined the relationship. Things like boundaries and accountability. I did not have the ability at that moment in my life to do those things because when I did that with my ex-husband, it meant abuse.
Right.
And so that was a really hard dynamic with us. I mean, he needed somebody to say, hey, accountability, like this is what we're doing.
Hold him to it.
Yep. Yeah. And boundaries. And I am like not good at that. I'm still learning.
Of course.
So yeah, he ended up coming back, and court's still going. So I'm still working to see the girls and they're coming sometimes. We're doing like tie-dye projects and they'll come over and we'll go shopping. So I'm making some progress with the girls, which was
And do they
really
act
great.
fine when they're with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're with me, they're fine. So it's still awkward because we hadn't seen each other for a year and I know there's a lot of animosity there, but it wasn't odd,
Right.
it was fine. I wouldn't say it was a mother-daughter relationship yet. It was kind of more like I was their really liked babysitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was that. But then he came home from his treatment and I could just see he wasn't back yet. I think he had a lot of guilt and I think he was really struggling with that. And I didn't really know the full extent of all the guilt, but I found a lot of things out afterwards. But then it was September. So my younger daughter's birthday is September 22nd, and it was September 21st. And I told him we have to share locations. And I look at our text log and he had stopped sharing locations. And I start texting him, like, what are you doing? Where are you? What's going on? Because he'd only been home for maybe a week or two at this point. And I'm freaking out and he doesn't respond. And I go home and I call his mom and I said, I can't find him. Can you help? She's like, okay. So we start looking and, he's from the Houston area. And so I am, and his family's there. And so I'm in Austin, which is a couple hours away. And I'm just freaking, I just don't have a good feeling. And it was about 9:00. He called me and he was just incoherent. Like nothing was making sense. Nothing could come out of his words. And I don't know anything about anything. And I just thought, you need to sleep this off, right? Like I have no idea. So I just say, don't drive anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Just go sleep this off. And I'm sitting there and I think I went to work the next morning and it was about 10:00 and I had this like really weird out of body experience I've never had before. I literally felt like I was floating and just my ears were ringing and it was just this really surreal experience. And about 1:00 and his mom called me and she had driven to the town where we had last heard from him, and she pulled up to the hotel in the area and there were cop cars there and he had overdosed on fentanyl. So that just was really hard to deal with. It was like, okay, I let myself feel a little happiness and it felt like everything just kind of came crashing down. I just felt so lost and like, why me? And, I know there was a bigger plan to that, but it was crushing and his family was so great, but we had to go down and just going through the funeral and writing an obituary and saying, and we hadn't gotten engaged. I think I left that out, but in May before. So I think that was his attempt to make sure I wouldn't leave him, so he gave me his grandmother's ring and asked me to marry him in May. And I told him, yeah, I'm here to help you. Even though I knew he had relapsed, I still believed in,
It sounds like he was a good guy and really good intentions, but unfortunately with drugs and alcohol, if it gets a hold of you, again,
And he was, when he was good, he was great, and that's what everybody said. Heart of gold, he would go anywhere at any time to pick you up and take you to rehab. And he would help. His funeral had thousands of people, even though those COVID, because so many people he had helped. And he had just a larger than life. His dad, he was amazing at baseball. He could have made it pro. A couple of his friends went pro. I mean, just phenomenal, athlete, and had so much potential. But, in the 2012s, they were pill milling it, and he got addicted and, tore his arm, and that was the end. And so it was really, really hard. And he was an amazing person. He really helped me heal a lot, It was like, okay. So that was
Crying.
But that was the blow I never saw coming. Like I had accepted that my life was going to be really hard with my kids and with my ex-husband, but that was hard. That was really hard. So,
because you let yourself love, you let your guard down and saw what normal could be, and it's just taken.
Yep. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm horrible. Like no one can ever love me. Like, everyone stay 10 feet away from me because I am cursed, and it became really, really hard. And I think I really, really struggled for a little bit. And I think I held it together on the outside really well. But on the good side of things, I mean, I got a bonus family and I'm still great friends with them. And, they're super supportive, and I couldn't ask for a better group of people. So, I mean, that was a good part of that. So, yeah.
And it hasn't really been that long.
Yeah. So it was 2020, 5 years. So we just did the 5 year, and we go to the grave site. If I can't go, I'll Zoom in. We do a little virtual and, let go of balloons or butterflies or something. And they do a tournament every year in March on his birthday, a sober softball tournament, and everybody comes out, and it's a really good thing. I mean, it's something I never really thought I would experience. But it taught me a lot. And I do believe like he's looking out for me for sure. And because, after that, everything kind of started to shift. There was a lot of big shifts that happened. And so it was probably April 2021. I was still kind of healing. And I get an email in my spam folder from a gentleman saying, hey, I have a friend who may know your ex-husband and she's in a really bad situation and something happened, and can you help her? And is there anything you can do? And there's a court case coming up because he strangled her and he threatened her with a gun, and she called the police, but now she's thinking she did the wrong thing and she should go back. And I just told him, tell her to run. I'll help her as much as I possibly can. And this time I was still kind of in court. So I called my lawyer and I said, this is going down. And she said, okay, let's go. We'll get the girls back. So, or we'll try to. And so we ended up filing an emergency hearing, and this woman's going through her case, and ended up being a felony 3 for that. And so we went to court and got an emergency hearing, and I got custody of the girls back. So it was great, but terrifying because the girls were so angry and upset. And I was living in an apartment, so it wasn't necessarily the ideal situation. It was 30 minutes away from their house, their school. So that kind of created oh my gosh, yes, great, but terrifying because I also thought he's going to kill me. So yeah, I mean, we got the girls back. I moved them in. My family came down, which was great. My mom came down, and my sister came down. And then I had a cousin that come to live with me over the summer just so that they could help me with the girls. I was trying to work, but the girls were really, really angry. They had been very brainwashed. They're still very brainwashed. And so he ended up getting supervised visits on Saturdays for 6 hours, I think. So I'd bring them to the supervisor, and, they'd do their supervised visits over the summer. And we kind of just kept going like that. And it was at that point I started to realize this is not just me. He's doing this too. Because then I found multiple women at this point. So I was probably at 3 or 4 women at this point that he had done the same thing to. So
and the poor girls have probably seen so much of this.
Yeah. And the stories I started to hear, and it just kept spiraling. So that's kind of been our ongoing. But, it's always a new woman. It's always a new abuse charge. I think he has probably 9 protection orders total. I think there's 5 or 6 active right now. So he's not in jail or anything? Well, we just got him in prison, September 17th. he finally went to prison for all this. So, yeah, but it was a long haul. I mean, even over the period of time after that, I got the girls back. He'd get the supervisor. I mean, they'd call CPS on me weekly. You know, it was just, it's this constant like battle back and forth. And I finally, you know, kind of eased up a little bit, and I'd let him, because we were supposed to step up to a 50-50 custody over, as long as he didn't get in any more trouble. He kept getting in trouble, but, you know, he assaulted one of his girlfriends, and her daughter saw it and called the police. I mean, he strangled her. He crashed her car on purpose and claimed the insurance money. I mean, like, the stories are just, I mean, they're not my stories to tell, but they're insane, the things he started to do. And the girls, even if I would tell them they couldn't go see their dad, they would be like, we're going to a friend, and then go see their dad. So I kind of started to lessen the hold of that a little bit and saying, okay, well, you can go see your dad, and you can spend time and this and that. And so that was... Well,
he was probably manipulating them too and telling them, just tell her this. Or just, I mean, he's a master.
Yeah. And I was also like, this sounds irrational and crazy, but I was also scared if I told him no, that he would tell my kids to like do something crazy, like kill me or open the garage for him or something. Like I was like, okay, this is delicate. So we just kind of kept on that. I treaded lightly. I'd let them go see him. I mean, I made things, you know, I just made it was like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I've got to kind of balance this. And I know the girls loved their dad. And so that was a really hard thing for me, because I'm the big bad guy that's trying to keep them away. And so I kind of let go a little bit of the hold and would let them see and like let them go over certain times or do certain things. But it just kind of spiraled from there. So
isn't it crazy though, how kids can see all of that and watch, I mean, their parent do those horrible things, but there's still that hold if they've manipulated enough.
Well, and I think it is too, like, they don't believe, I think, that I can keep them safe, because they've seen time and time again that I can't. So in their mind, they're going to align with this person and they're not going to cross this person. Are you crazy? Because I've seen what happens when you cross this person. Right. So I think that's a lot of it. And I also think it's just this brainwashing. I mean, and you have grown women. I mean, I know 5 or 6 of these women who have been abused and brainwashed going back and back and back. Can you imagine being 10, 11, 12, 13? Yeah. No, and it's your parent, right? Like, absolutely not. But yeah, around that time I met, I started dating again, and it was probably a couple years after I started dating again. And I met the gentleman I'm with now, who just, he's my godsend. I know I don't give him enough credit, but literally, like, has been amazing for everything. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better human being. Like, restored my faith in humanity. So yeah, that was a godsend at that time. And I think it was a godsend for everybody else too, like my family, because they felt I was okay and I was safe. And so we met in 2022, and he just kind of helped me navigate this, because the girls started refusing to come back. And they would stay at their dad's house, and then I couldn't get them to come back. And then I'd call the police, and they won't do anything. It's a civil matter, so file this. And I'd call his probation officer, and he's really not breaking the law, so there's nothing you can do there. And so it was always just document for when you go back to court. Well, I've already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't want to go back to court. So I just kind of ended up going, this is the way it's going to be. Like, I don't even know. Like, I was so tired. And the girls would come back, and we'd have lunch together and do things, and, you know, here and there, but it was impossible. And he had kind of gotten back into their brain. And this time he had an affair with one of the girls' friends' moms again and broken up their marriage. So that was a big, crazy ordeal. Got kicked out of the sporting events and got kicked off the team because of it. So it just started to spiral again. Like, I couldn't control him at all, anything. So I just was trying to balance like sanity. And then he met a new woman. I kind of heard through the grapevine that they were together and, you know, living their life. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's really happy. Like, I didn't really believe that, but I kind of thought, well, there was no more police reports or anything that were coming out in that time frame. So I just kind of accepted that, okay, this is it. But then he took me back to court in 2023. He wanted custody. He wanted back money for the girls when he had taken them. And, he wanted all of this. He wanted I think he asked for $17,000 or $18,000, and he wanted them to be able to choose where they lived. He just basically wanted me to pay child support and all that thing. So we went back to court. I was terrified, though. Even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, it was just the fact I had to go back and face him again. Yeah. And the possibility of losing my kids again, even though I'd kind of already lost them, it was just terrifying. All of 2023, we kind of went through that and ended up going back to the day of our divorce. So it was August 13th, 2024, by the time it all got said and done.
Jeez.
And I'm on the stand fighting for my kids again, saying, no, I ask you to bring the girls back. I've done this. He had the rule in our order, no women around our children, no paramours at all, ever. So I had plenty of documentation that he had broken that. And that was the thing. I think people were like, well, why didn't you just go back and get him right away? Well, you don't know how much documentation you need to actually get a judgment. So I documented. I had 500 pages of messages through the parenting app. I had pictures. I had social media things. I proved. And I only put 66 violations down on the thing. So I filed a petition, a counter petition saying, you've broken our order 66 times that I can document, and I'm asking for jail time and, for contempt. And we went into court and kind of went back, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what's he going to come up with? And, how's this going to go down? And, he's on the stand saying he has terminal brain cancer, and he's going to Costa Rica, and his doctor is, treating him for terminal brain cancer. And we're like, have you ever had a diagnosis in the United States? And he's like, no. It just was insane. And he admits to having women around the children, and his new wife has been around the children. So apparently they got married, and I'm just going, what is happening? It was crazy. So the judge, we have a 3-day trial and go through everything. And at the end, the judge says, absolutely not. You're going to jail. And he gets 6 months in jail for contempt.
Good.
So it was like, finally, oh my gosh.
Something, a consequence.
Yeah. And then the girls had to come back. And that was horrific. Because at this time, they're 16 and 13, and they hate me.
They're angry.
Hate me. When I say hate, it's not even I've ruined their life. I took away their best friend. I mean, that is where we are, and hate me. So I'm like, okay, I just got to muscle through this. So I deal with it. They come back. While he's in jail, I feel like there was a small period of time where it wasn't like the girls weren't as angry. And honestly, when they're at my house and with me, it's pretty normal. It's like a teenage girl relationship.
Yeah.
They're in their room, they're doing this, whatever. I mean, I feel like that's normal, right? So we kind of go through the motions of him being in jail for 6 months, but my intuition is tingling that something isn't right. And I just go into my older daughter's room one day, and I just notice some papers in her closet, and I just look and I see his handwriting, and I'm like, okay. And I open up, and it's a letter from jail. So he's had to have no correspondence with the kids for a year per the judge's order. That was
really
absolutely nothing, not even a smoke signal, so nothing. And then after a year, if he has had no more trouble and he hasn't talked to the girls, then he can have 3 hours of supervised visits a month. That's it. He's basically never seeing these kids again. So I see this letter, and then I see another, and I see another, and I see another. And I know that's just the tip of the iceberg. So they're all to the older daughter, and just weird.
Where's he sending them?
From jail to his mother's house.
Yeah. Oh.
So this becomes where I figure out, okay, the mom is enabling these things. And I didn't know exactly how it was happening. The letters I could make sense of because they would come to her, and then she would give them to the girls. So then during this time, because he went to jail for contempt, the other wife starts figuring things out, and she is freaking out because he's told her all these things, that he's a pro golfer and all of these things, and he has all this money, and he's dying, and I'm giving up custody to my children, and she's going to have to take the children. They're going to will the children. Like her story is insane too. So he has this insane plot, like $3 million in the Cayman. I mean, he has her, everything about is a lie. And But I didn't know this, but he was also physically abusing her. He was mentally abusing her. He was telling her he had brain cancer, and it just fake doctors. And I mean, it was elaborate, like text messages and phone calls. And she was filing like FMLA, and it got crazy. There, he leveled up with her in terms of the con man. So after she starts like, why? If she was giving up custody, why did you go to jail? And she starts putting it together. And she's a smart girl and she's fierce. Like, you do not want to cross her. And she starts putting it together. And she's also, you don't want to mess with her because she's going to take you down. And she has no qualms. Like, she's the exact opposite of me when like, just be quiet. She's like, oh no, everyone's going to know.
Yeah.
So she starts figuring it out. And, yeah, it just goes from there. And she ends up filing for divorce, getting a protection order. So it just...
They didn't have kids, right?
Nope. She had her own children. And they were only married like 30 days or something. Yeah, it was very short. So I think he was trying to pull something. So yeah, it was crazy. That all started to happen. And then the state of Texas, because all this time he had been on a deferred adjudication sentence for the other woman when I got the girls back, the strangulation. So that charge, he ended up pleading with all the other charges that he had for like violating protection orders and tracking devices and all of that. He lumped it into one deal, basically for a 6-year deferred adjudication sentence. So he had to stay out of trouble for 6 years or else they could revoke it. So he's in jail now for contempt, and part of his probation was to follow our court order. He didn't follow our court order. So then he's in jail. So now the state of Texas says, all right, well, we're going to revoke this. So we start going through the process to revoke it, and everyone starts coming out of the woodwork. Like the wife that just left, all the other women, like all 5 or 6 of us start coming out and get in touch with the DA, and we're all saying we'll testify, like, to all this. So he stretches it out over a year. So that was October 2024 when they start that process, and they keep setting hearings, and he's in the hospital, or he has an emergency, he has a blood clot, like it goes forever. And
how's he affording an attorney?
I think it was partly his mother. Yeah, partly his mother. And then he met another woman. I think he's currently still involved with this woman, which is crazy to me, who's really wealthy, I think, as well. So that adds a whole nother layer to that. But yeah, so I don't even know how he is. But then at that time, I'm fighting for these jail calls for my civil case because I believe he's violated this. And I don't know exactly how he's done it, but I'm trying to figure it out. Well, I get a call from an inmate who was his cellmate saying, I have information that you should know. And I'm like, well, okay. So my lawyer talks to him and he says, well, what he's doing is he's using other inmates' PIN numbers and calling his own cell phone, which he's given to my children, or his mom's phone. And that's how he's getting around it. So I'm fighting the civil case to get these calls, but it's really hard to get phone calls. So I'm going to court. Nothing's happening. Well, I tell the DA in our conversation saying, I know that he's violated it because of this. I just can't prove it yet. And she's like, oh, I'll get those calls. I'm like, oh, that's easy. All
cool.
Right. Yeah. So she pulls up the calls, 1,200 calls. He's called my children 1,200 times during his jail stint that we could find. And it's just listening to the calls are just like creepy and
maintaining that control.
Yeah. And like my children will spy for him. Like they would record me and send it to their dad. And like, so they would put everything back, either actual recording or that. So it was horrible. And
it had to be heartbreaking for you though, because you just wanted them back.
I just wanted
and wanted to love them. Yeah.
I would have shared my children with him. Like if he could have been a good person, I don't think it's safe. I know it's not safe now. I know he's hurt them mentally, and I don't think I'll ever be able to get that back. But yeah, that's my biggest regret. I think that I can deal with, and I have dealt with all the other things that have happened. Like the relationship with my children is a thing like that. Yeah. I am crushed, and I know I'll probably maybe when they're older, but
just keep showing up for them.
Yeah, I have a little slogan: "Never give up." So I just tell myself, "Never give up, never give up." But,
yeah. It'll change. And it's so hard right now where they're younger, but I think it truly will change when they're older.
Yeah.
And they can use their own mind. And they're not being brainwashed and they're away from him.
Yeah.
So is he no contact with them now?
No, I mean, yes and no. So we finally did get to go to court after like all these resets and all these shenanigans. We ended up going and I testified, the ex-wife testified, and one of the other girls testified. And the judge immediately said, okay, you're getting revoked. And it was up to 10 years. So he took a deal for 9. So he took 9. I don't think he wanted the rest of us to tell our story. Like I never got the chance to tell my whole story on the stand, and neither did the other woman really, because I don't think he wanted that.
Right.
So he took the deal for 9 years, but he got time served.
Will he make it 9 years with brain cancer, terminal brain cancer?
He does not have terminal brain cancer.
Exactly.
He has the brain thing, but yeah, I mean, that was the funny thing. He was telling his wife, like, I have 4 months to live and I might die any minute. And I'm like, he made it out of that 6 months in jail pretty well. Like, I think he's okay. And he got out, and even when he got out, he was supposed to be on an ankle monitor, and I see him in the neighborhood walking, no ankle monitor, and I push record on the dash cam and I send it to the DA. I'm like, check where he's supposed to be, because I saw him walking right here. And she's like, oh no, it says he's at home. I'm like, okay, so he doesn't have his ankle monitor on, and you're telling me I'm safe. I'm not safe. Like,
right.
You're insane. So that was like even more frustrating that it drug out.
Scary.
The due process was insane. Like, to actually get someone in prison. And even now, I mean, he literally just went in September 17th, and I already got a notification saying he's eligible for parole. And
when?
He went in the 17th. I got the email the 28th saying he's petitioning for parole. He got some time served, and because it's not like, they didn't put the gun in the charge, so he will be eligible in a short amount of time. So he'll probably be out. He won't spend any more than 4 years in, but I mean, he's actually going on for parole. I've already had to write a parole letter, and he's been in.
I mean, I really hope that they don't give it to him.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I do too. I think he believes he is. And that's the thing. Like, I'm terrified of that. Yes. And I have to accept that. But then, now it's with my children, is like his mom and this woman he's dating now. She bought a $1 million house in a gated community, and my 17-year-old refuses to come home, and I can't get her to come back. So she's gone. She's run away. I've had to call like numerous times that they're runaways. My younger daughter won't come back, and I know she's there, but I've literally tried to get into this community. So they planned this all out ahead of time. Like, even if he was going to jail, I'm not going to get my kids. So yeah, they're not coming back. My older daughter won't talk to me. So, I mean, that, I think it was like, great. We got accountability with him going to prison. But yeah, the last month has been probably the hardest, because I always had hope that I could rebuild a relationship, because I felt like I had time. Yeah. And now, realizing I don't have any more time with her. She gets to make her own decisions. And
she's 17.
She's 17. So in the state of Texas, she's not a runaway. She's a missing person, but they won't make her come back. I've called everybody. I've called the police. And if she has her sister, yes. But yeah, I mean, she's basically said, I don't want anything to do with you. And I can't make her come back. It's crazy. And it's crazy that someone can, and I know his mom's contributing to this, because I know it. But that you can buy a house, $1 million house in a gated community, and think that, that's going to further, the alienation. And my kids probably do believe that I'm a bad person, and they hate me, and they've been told that for so long.
Well, they're young, and they've been brainwashed most of their life.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get her back, and I won't ever stop trying. I won't ever give up. But, and even my younger daughter, it's hard, I don't want to take her away from her sister, that they have each other, but
yeah,
it's hard. This has definitely been the hardest part. Like, yes, there's accountability for him, but it still feels like I'm being hurt from a distance.
You're being punished. Yeah.
And I don't think it'll ever. And I always knew it would end up this way. If I fought back against him, he's the type of person that won't ever give up. He will ruin your life. And so I think that.
And that's what he's still doing, unfortunately.
He is. And I'm trying to heal past that. But again, it's that thing where you're like, how can I be happy when my kids hate me so much? And, I could get it if I was like, an abusive person, or
right.
I had done it, but I'm like the nicest human. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, Mom, can you make me a s'more? Like when they lived with me, I'm like, yeah, it's like 10 o'clock at night. Let me make
Right.
s'mores.
Let me do whatever you need. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do whatever. I'll take you wherever. I'll buy you whatever. Like I just was like, so I love them. And that's the only thing I've ever wanted to do was love my children and be with children and have children. And like,
I have a feeling they're buying them right now.
yeah.
You know, just
Yeah, it's $1 million house
whatever
with a
they
pool.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, they have all the things they could ever want and they have money and this and that. And that appeals to children. And I don't know. I can't compete with that.
I just can't believe that he's able to snow this many women.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
he doesn't have a job. He doesn't like.
it's insane the
Yes.
level that he's able. And that's why it's like, I'm always the bad guy in the stories because no one can talk to me because I blow everything up because they're like, oh, he's a pro golfer and he has a Nike sponsorship and he went to UT. And I'm like, no,
Right.
no. I've known
That
him
is
since
all false.
we were 17. And none of that is true.
Yes.
Right. Like, so I think he hates that and I've been so quiet and complacent and I just never wanted to hurt the girls.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is why I've never told my truth is because that's hard to hear. And that's a hard thing to hear about your dad and your situation.
Right.
But I think that's where abuse thrives is in secrecy and people not willing to come forward and say, and not willing to be a model of like, you can get through this. Like when you don't see anyone getting through it, like because no one's willing to say you can, it makes you feel hopeless and alone. And I think I lived so long feeling like I'm this like alien and I'm so alone. And
You do feel that way. Yes. Yes. Like I think back of situations that, you know, I had, you know, similar and you do feel alone. And back then there wasn't social media. There wasn't, you know, all these things that you could hear other stories.
Yeah.
Like for someone else to hear your story that is going through even something similar and just, it's not even that you want validation. It's just like, wow.
yeah.
Okay, someone else is dealing with this. This is real. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
But I can get out.
Yeah.
I can leave. I can do these things. You would never believe it.
You wouldn't. And I think that was hard back in, like, I don't want to say back in the day, but back, like you said, before some of these things were resources and people talked about it. I mean, I was going through that in early 2000 to, you know, early 2010s, and there wasn't as much out there. And I had no idea what was happening. You know, there was not a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wish I would have had that. And, you know, even the women, it's unlikely, but like all of his exes, like after the trial kind of came together in like a little tribe because it's validating to be
Good old trauma bond.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
oh my God, you did that. He did that to you too.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
Yes.
You know, it's just like weird things that you always thought you were so crazy. But you're not crazy.
Hasn't that allowed you to like think differently though? Like even about yourself?
Yeah.
Back then? Because you beat yourself up. Like, I wish I would have. I wish I would have done this. All the what ifs. And you could drive yourself crazy. But to unfortunately see other people and hear stories, it changes everything, I think.
It does. And you have more compassion for yourself. And I think like, I also kind of took on this not official, but you know, pseudo official mom role with them because I felt protective of them and I wanted to help them through that. And I wanted to say, okay, here's some ideas. Like, you don't have to do all this, but like, here's some things we can do. And it's okay. Like, you're going to be okay. And I think even just saying that was healing. I mean, and like I said, it's the most unlikely group of friends that you would ever have. And I would have never in a million years thought like my friend group would be compiled of exes.
All the exes.
He's abused. But yeah, we do share that bond and, you know, it's good. And I think working through it is together in some ways is helpful and having supportive people. Like, I mean, my lawyer, you know, my current partner, my current fiance, my mom and dad, my brother and sister, like I literally would be dead without them. There's no way. And I know a lot of people don't have that, you know, And I feel sad for those people who don't have that, because if I hadn't had those people who swooped in and said, let's get you another apartment, let's get you a car, let's do this, let's do that, like, let me help you feel safe, let me legally help you.
Yeah.
I would never have made it through this ordeal at all. Like, there would be absolutely no way. So I think like coming together in that community, and in my work too, I like, my work was extremely tolerant of the crazy things that happen, which is awful. But I mean, if you don't have something like that, you're in trouble. And
Right.
I
I think, like you said, even these little communities, it just helps so much to have someone that can relate, someone who can give you advice, because you weren't telling anybody any of that. You were so alone through everything.
Yeah.
That probably broke your parents' hearts.
It did. And for a long time, I didn't talk to my parents and that's why I kind of understand what my children are doing, because if I talked to them, there was repercussions. And it wasn't like, if you talk to your parents, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, but you put it together pretty quick,
Right.
you know? So I didn't talk to my parents, and my parents called one time looking for me when I lived in Abilene, and I was so broken, but he was standing there, and I said, just forget about me. Never talk to me again. And I hate you. And, you know, I verbalized that because that's what I had to do, because I was in this situation. And I looked back, and like, that broke my heart. And then, you know, my dad always told me, don't give up, Acasha, don't give up, because I think he saw like how hard that was for them. And, you know, it breaks my heart. Like, my family hasn't seen my kids in 10 years, you know, really. I mean, my mom saw them a little bit, but they didn't like her. They hate my parents. They hate my family. They hate my dog, like anything that has to do with me. And it just breaks my heart, because, you know, that was my parents' first grandchildren, and they would do anything for them, you know, and they've just been so isolated from this whole community of people who would love them.
Yeah.
And that's so hard, that it's still that abuse that you're like,
He still has a hold of everything.
Yeah. 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 So I think, you know, in that way, there's definitely good things about it, and there's hard things. And I think, like, I've learned a lot. I never in a million years would imagine I would be this person, like, going through these things, but I'm proud of it. I think, like, my mantra throughout the years has just been like, you have the power to choose what your response is going to be. And you can choose if this is going to let you break you down or build you up. And I feel like I've kind of got this stoicism phrase I use. It's amor fiati, which is like, love your fate. And I know that sounds insane to people, but I really had to get to a point where I loved this, because it's made me who I am. And now I'm in a position to hopefully help other people. And I'm in a position to be a model for other people that maybe are hopeless, or maybe don't know how to get out, or are in a similar situation. And I want that to be a good role model for them, that, hey, it is possible, and you can thrive, and you can be happy and successful and live a great life. Not without its challenges, but, you know, I'm pretty tough now. Like, I've learned a lot.
Yeah, you are.
I'm you know, I'm far from the 17-year-old all those years ago, but, you know, I'm proud of the way I live too. I think that was one thing that really resonated with me, is like, you know, I had someone ask me, well, what does justice look like? Is that justice? And I just remember thinking, to me, justice is the way I'm going to live my life, and separate from anything to do with anything with him, because I will never be able to control that. Justice is how I show up every day. Justice is the relationships and the commitments I make. Justice is who I am. It's not for anyone else. And so I think that was my moment of thinking, okay, that is what justice is to me. And
Powerful.
yeah, I think it's helped me take back some of that, you know, like, it has nothing to do with him. That person, you know, and I will let that go, and I will live a life, but you can't take away the person that I am and what I've chosen to do with what you did to me. Like, you thought it would break me. It didn't break me. Right. Yeah. You can keep trying, you know, and it's hard. It's not easy, but I think he has no power over that, and it still hurts, and I still grieve my children, but I have to believe that if I keep showing up as a good person and doing the right thing, that one day that will,
Yeah. That's why I said just keep showing up
keep
when
doing
you
it.
can.
Never
Yeah.
give up. Yeah. One
And
step
girl,
at a
I
time.
think you're strong as hell. And I'll tell you, I see you and I'm freaking proud of you. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I mean, when you think about 20 something years of,
Yes.
and just feeling
The
like,
fact that you can even be where you are in the state of mind and everything and be able to do something like this, you know, and get on here and tell your story, it's freaking powerful.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone can do it. And I know you just don't believe it. I mean, yeah, I cried on the floor many nights, like many nights. And that's authentic. That's real. That's human.
Right.
But I think that concept of choice, I just go back to all the time. And I just had to say, I get to choose. You don't get to choose. You chose to do this. I choose to make this my destiny. And I'm successful. I have a wonderful fiance. I'm going to have a wonderful life. And I will work on the relationship with my children. But I know I didn't do anything. I will apologize to them for the hurt that they experienced. But I have lived a good life. And I am a good person. And that's, you can't take that away.
And truly, at the end of the day, you were just trying to do what you thought was best for them, you know?
Yeah.
And they're not going to understand that now. And especially, I'll tell you, girls, because I have too.
Yes.
And when they're teenagers, forget it.
It's hard.
You know, I think that kids in general, they really start to see life like in their mid-20s-ish. And they look at their parents differently too.
Yeah.
Because they have like, I think you'll keep showing up. And I think that that's going to happen for you.
Yeah.
It has to.
I hope so. I'm believing it. I love them. Everything I've done is for them. You know, whatever. I moved to Texas for them. I'll do whatever. I will keep showing up. I will be that person because, you know, they are everything to me, you know.
And one day when they're older, you know, or who knows when,
Yeah.
they'll hear this and they'll know.
Yeah.
You won't even have to say it to them.
Exactly.
And deal with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was telling them earlier, I've written a book. I have it all written down now. So I'm like, okay, that was cathartic. So I got my book written out, and I feel like one day when they're older, maybe they can read the book and they can go back and maybe put themselves in some of those positions and maybe not fully understand it because it's really hard to, but, you know, go back and read through that and really feel like why I made some of the decisions I did, which I know they don't make sense to everybody, and they won't, and that's okay.
Well, and everybody's story is different. Everybody's challenges, they're all different. Yeah. So that's why I get so like pissed off about people judging and stuff, because they don't know. It's that, like I say 100 times, that good old saying, the walk in their shoes. Yeah. Like,
Or the
don't judge.
Roosevelt quote where it's like, oh yeah, you can make all the judgments you want from the stands, but unless you're in that arena, you can't say anything. So
100%
I would
agree.
Gladly trade places with you, and you can walk a mile in my shoes and tell me what you would do differently. And I don't say that to be rude or mean, but even closest people around me, they have the best intentions and advice sometimes, but I have to look at it and say, what do I have to do? What do I know what to do? And I trust my gut, because my gut got me through some really bad things. And I'm here today thriving because of those choices. So it maybe wasn't the linear way to get there, but I got here and I did make it. So, you know.
You sure did.
Sometimes the journey isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, you know. It's a detour to another place, you know. So,
yes. Yes. Gosh, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It was great.